We had about 10, 12 years ago at Tamara. She was on the roof. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, look at it.
Just wondering.
Okay, so it's 3 o'clock. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Can we all stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So in attendance, we have Ed, Doug, myself, and then we have Bob online. Yes. I need a motion to allow Bob.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Yes. Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Hey, Bob, can you hear us?
He says, yeah, he gave a thumbs up. I checked before.
All right, so I need a motion for the approval of the final agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Public comment?
I have none.
Oh, this is fast.
What?
Nothing online?
Could start off again.
Gosh. All
What-
right,
What's coming?
all right. Local achievements and recognitions. Do we have anything?
I had one that I sent in to staff earlier and this week on a issue that our utility crew on fixing a water connections pressure issue over on Lake Run Drive. And I had some pictures. They were using the new trench box and I don't think people realize the effort you have to go through or with the line that taps your 6-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch, whatever it is, water line out in front of your house. And you have a line, they call it the whip, that goes over, splits and goes into your meters. A lot of the area and gateway have cul-de-sacs. People live on dead-end lines. And those dead-end lines have been there for 20, 30, 35 or more years. And the pressure just keeps going down and down and down. Well, one of these was one of our employees and another one was a good friend of mine, but their water pressure, that when we took the whip and got it open and exposed and turned on the valve, that water wouldn't shoot from here to the wall. When we reamed out the corpse stop, reamed it out, reconnected it and put it up together again, turned it open, the water shot about 130 feet. That's how significant of loss. More than anything is just how the guys go about doing that and the safety involved. You're down deep and using the trench box and everything. But the big one is that what I bring up is that I think we are just starting to look at the tip of the iceberg. We need to take and develop a plan to go to the ends of all these streets, all of which have blowouts. I think we need to be going to them and prematurely just start opening them up like a hydrant flushing or like a fire hydrant. Only do it at the end of these lines. That black material that came out of those two people's service connection. Yeah. You're drinking that stuff.
Ugh.
How long it's been there, I have no idea. But when we flushed it, I mean, it was back as black as Bill, if not blacker than Bill's shirt. We need to be addressing this instead of trying to correct a problem. Let's try to prevent a problem, especially on these dead end lines where we have cleanouts that WCI in their infinite wisdom at least put them in. Let's use them. Let's go in there and flush this stuff out.
And staff said that, are we aware of any maintenance that we're doing on those?
They're just, right now it's responding to low pressure complaints.
And then the other one is that what I saw on this that changed my mind, and maybe we are doing it and we just haven't talked about it. On our new meter project, what we need to do is on our side of the meter, right before the turnoff at the meter, we need to put a little spigot with a tap that we can come back and screw on a pressure gauge and have from now on a gauge that whenever we have an indication from an owner that, hey, I've got low pressure, we've heard this stuff for years. Go out there, put that gauge on, and you know immediately, is the pressure bad on our side of the meter or your side? Because if we're reading 45, 50, 55 pounds on our side, we know the problems on your side. Could be any of your valves, any of your filters, any of that stuff. That little tap that I'm talking about with a pressure gauge connection is nothing.
Yeah.
Costs nothing to do. And it might be something we want to have on the new job to have put on everyone. And you can take it such that you just come in, screw in the pressure gauge, you get an instantaneous reading.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's gonna be opportunity. There's a lot of lessons learned. I think the last project, so I'm sure, and we'll have opportunities, maybe in a workshop or just we have a little committee or something, just to make sure that we're looking at
Well,
opportunities for improvement, things that, okay, what are we not thinking about?
Well, so I'm looking at stuff that instantaneously can answer a question.
Yeah, and we do
But
get,
to
we
make
get pressure
make,
requests.
and make the guy's job a lot easier, if we can go to the deal and make a determination that that is the problem on our side or your side, that's a major battle right there. Because if it's on their side, then pretty much we're done.
Yeah.
If it's on our side, we're just beginning. And then we have to figure out what it is. But after what I saw the other day, that was great evidence that when they pull that whip out, which is like a 5/8, 3/4 inch line, the plastic line, and then they put that, I call it like a reamer, they tie that in and then use a drill and crank it out. That black stuff that come out was horrible. No wonder these people have no pressure. No wonder.
Yeah,
But
we
if we
talked
can,
about that, like when you,
but if we can do that, and not only on the potable, but do it on the irrigation. Do it on both sides. That way we know.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. It's low cost.
And it costs nothing to put that little tip on there with a screwed connection to put a meter on or a
alright,
Good.
a
so
gate.
just.
So anyway, I was
that
praising the guy's work
utility.
at the safety. That's the first time I've seen him use the trench box. And I've had a couple of people die on my jobs in trenches. That when you're down 15, 20 feet and you're in a sandy soil and you have water, you can't believe how fast in a blink of the eye that trench, you'll get drowned. You'll get drowned. And these guys we don't need to take that chance in Gateway.
We purchased those this year and got staff trained, and so it's good to hear.
They used them. They used them exactly the way you do. So I'm praising what they're doing.
Okay.
They did a great job.
Well, Ed, how many dead ends do we have? Do we have a list of the potential cul-de-sacs?
We have a list on the utility side of
Dead ends.
dead ends that we know are problem children, and we know where we need to loop those systems.
Yeah,
Okay.
your problem in most of those that have it are in my community, which is the older, and your problem is almost every road ends in a cul-de-sac. And making it a loop is next to impossible now because of all the growth in the building. So about the only thing you can do is maintenance
Flush 'em.
and try to flush them.
Yeah.
Let me just say one more thing.
Well, if we have a list, then, on some periodic schedule, 1 year, 3 years, whatever, we make sure we go and bleed them.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say is, I know that we have been talking for years, starting to build, maintenance routines in place. We need to exercise valves and all that stuff. We need to make sure that we build a schedule for that and some of these new things, because as we're coming to budget season, if we're looking at resource capacity and how often we're gonna do it, how many hours, how does that fit in? Just need to make sure we've got the staff.
Well, the nice thing about this is that as long, knock on wood, that the valves, the blow-offs are operational. I mean, you're talking 15, 20 minutes, you're in and gone, you're done. Now, if the valve is not operational, now you got a problem.
Yeah.
So that's something that I think they need to do, but the guys did a great job. Did a
Okay,
great job.
I have two things. First, Carol joined us online. Okay, so I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept
Hi there.
You have your speaker on?
Carol's participation, today,
The only ones I can hear are Flavia and Ed.
Second.
All in favor? Hi. Hi, Carol.
My mic
Hi,
is off.
Carol.
I apologize.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Carol.
Okay, and then I look, Rod Senior has his hand up. It came up after we passed the public comment, but I think he was having some issues getting
Okay.
connected, so I don't know if he has his hand raised.
Sure,
If you want to give him his 3 minutes.
yes. Who is it?
Rod.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Flavia. Agenda item 11G. I note that you're planning to discuss and possibly vote on a new administration building at Gateway Commons Park. The square footage appears to have inexplicably grown to something like 9,000 square foot from what I can see, which is twice what it was in the days when we were considering Fairway Lakes Office Park and the Girl Scout building at 4,000 square feet. This is more than we need to spend and more than the district needs, and I would ask you to scale it back. Secondly, the proposal appears to have a park component hidden within it. I would ask for transparency reasons that you separate out the park component. The board already has committed to putting out a detailed community survey with full costs for each proposed park component. That is capital costs, operating and maintenance costs, security and access control costs, and the impact on residents' property taxes. In your 2021 survey, 89% of residents stated that they want no new assessments from any proposed park. So why would you want to push forward with a park proposal? Please make sure that this board does not try to force this park through, as did the board of 2007. It's imperative that you build community consensus for a project like this. If the community says no, then you should not be building it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rod.
Okay.
Okay, so nobody else? Nope. Okay, so let's go ahead to approval of the minutes. I need a motion.
I had nothing to change. I'll move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Consent agenda items?
I have nothing to pull.
Motion to approve consent agenda item 9A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 District engineer, Tetra Tech update?
Stephen Agapi, I believe, is online. He is a little under the weather.
Yes.
Stephen, you ready? Can you unmute him? Stephen Agapi? Eric, can you grab Stephen?
Yeah, let me go see what's going on.
Public comment too quick.
You want to go to?
Move.
So how about this? How about, I'll start with this, a recap, of the meeting that we had with Tetra Tech. Chelsea, myself, Danny and Gary, I think last week.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I think it was a really productive meeting, right? Where it would, yeah. Did we send this to the board or was just after
It-
Tetra Tech?
It was just to you.
Okay, so the items that we talked about, mainly we started with timelines. So the recap of the meeting yesterday with Tetra Tech, timelines provided to the gateway services through staff, they need to match the task authorization. I guess we had staff was looking at a lot of the dates that were promised, but they were not the dates on the contract. Because if they were promised prior to the contract, staff was holding them accountable for the secondary promise, but I think we're all in agreement that we're just gonna hold them accountable for the contracts. If the contract says July, is July. If they promise us in June, great, but it's July. So I
Is
think
that completion date or target? Like, how was that
Completion
date? Because we've been trying to push for a long time that this tax authorization update, that it aligned to what's real.
I think she's totally specifically talking to the contract at hand on the admin building.
No, it
No,
was
everything,
all
because
contracts.
there were
Oh, well,
multiples.
well, it definitely applies to all contracts, but I think what precipitated it was that we've got contracts that have dates for deliverables. And then we have contracts that have one single date, and that's the end of when the project's done. Then we're coming back and we're creating dates for whatever reason.
Yes,
Those need to result in a change order to the contract because time is money.
And
And if it is, it is, it's whatever it is. But the fact is, we can't expect the contractor or the vendor to produce a deliverable that is not called for in the contract.
yeah, and the task authorization or this update sheet, for me, it gives us a high level overview of what the tasks are, when it was authorized and what's the, it says anticipated completion date. I think it should, maybe say completion date, target or whatever, but we understand the nature. Yeah.
and we talked about
So,
that because
And this is normally, one second, and I think this is okay when things are going well. And you'll see some things are just, there's a strike through and then we have another date. And normally our engineer will give us an update on our call. Sometimes there's some updates. But if we don't have more detailed project plans, and maybe staff has access to that. Then when we're in the board meeting, we're trying to track what's going on. It's great when things are going well, but when there's an issue, we don't have any visibility into what are the risks items, who's responsible if things are flagged yellow, or if there's delays, whether it's timing, budget, whatever. And I know it could be additional work, but I would imagine if we're having these projects, there is a plan somewhere, right? Someone should be managing a plan, even if we don't have a dedicated project manager on these. I just think more transparency would be beneficial for us when we have these larger projects.
Well, whether it's the engineer, the attorney, or any of our vendors, professionals, a third column would solve the problem. And that is, what is the contractual date? Because if they're in a contractual date and you're trying to hold somebody to something, lots of luck.
Yeah. And I
Lots of
think
luck.
to your point, what you said earlier is if that date, so when it was authorized and what is the date of completion? If the date of completion moves, it has to be agreed upon. We can't arbitrarily, move dates. Now, it could be a task, let's say like permitting. There's a target date for permitting that can move and we have no control over that. And that date can move, without any change order. But the ultimate completion date, that cannot move unless all parties agree to it. And I think maybe it's what we're missing sometimes here is some of the task tracking.
Well,
So-
I think a lot of the problems that we're running into just recently are we're getting into the details of things that we're now finding are creating an obstacle to getting to the end result.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is producing documents in the way of permits or other documents to get an approval from somebody that obviously we have no control over that at all. But we better budget for it, because if it's going to take them 60 days, we give it to them. It takes them 60 days to review it. They give us comments. It takes us 30 days to prepare the revision, then another 30 days to 60 days for them to re-review it. You better put all that in there.
Yeah, because it can,
Because all
especially if we go to
of a sudden-
bid, it can impact, what our anticipated costs
It'll
were
keep you from starting the project.
potentially. Yeah.
So, but my point is I think that probably some of the issues that we've ran into are because we don't have enough detail on the deliverables. They're not in the contract. And probably what we needed to do, if we wanted to accelerate them, we need to go back and say to the people that are involved, whether it's the prime or the sub, hey, we want this, and this. What's that going to cost you to do?
Yeah. Okay.
Because one of the answers may be, I can't do it that
And we
fast.
did talk about the deliverables, and I guess they're gonna be recapping every Tuesdays, their meeting with the deliverables to Chelsea. So instead of Chelsea recapping, Tetra Tech will be recapping, and so any updates will become that way, and then you can forward that to the board. I would have just, I don't see why not. I don't think it needs to be wait a month. If you have it in every Tuesday, just forward it to us.
Well, one comment that I have on the process, not any particular item, but if in the process, someone would call Tetra Tech and say, I need this in 2 weeks, and if Tetra Tech knows that they can't deliver it for 30 days, then that 2 weeks means nothing unless both parties consent. It just can't
Right.
lay down a
That's the
benchmark
point.
and say
That's
we
what
gotta have
Doug's
the answer.
saying.
Well, you have to, when you submit a request, hey, whoever, we need to do X, and we're looking to have it returned in 2 weeks. That response, we need to come up with a threshold of what our acceptable response is. So within 48 hours, I'm just using that as hypothetical. Vendor needs to come back and say, okay, we've reviewed initially, we can have this turned around in 30 days, or we can't do it. Let's renegotiate timeline or whatever. But I think what's important is in the initial request, it has to be, and this may be happening, and I'm not saying that it's not, a reasonable turnaround, expectations on that, and then we need to land on
Well, yeah,
dates.
maybe
An agreed
when we're
turnaround,
negotiating
not
the
a
contract.
Yeah,
caveat.
of course.
An
It may be-
agreed turnaround.
Correct, Bob.
It may be that when we're negotiating the contract for a specific task, we might be a little bit more detail on the things that we think could hold us up, defining them in the agreement then and having them with a deliverable date.
So that is.
Because we're
one
not,
thing that came out of it
yeah.
was they have timelines for task authorizations, but when you get into the minutia of,
Yeah.
responding to, how long is it gonna take you to respond to an addendum or push out that type of thing, we quickly realized we need to be more specific. And so that was an
Okay.
outcome of that meeting with Flavia.
well, especially when you get into construction, if you go out, and the way we do it is the proper way, we go out and have a pre-bid meeting and we invite comments, and we have a site to send the comments back in, questions the bidders ask. I've learned the hard way, make sure you answer bidders' questions. That takes time. If they send in just a plethora of questions, it's going to take time to answer all those questions. The question is, are the questions have to be answered by the staff, or are the questions have to be answered by the attorney, or questions have to be answered by the design professional?
Yeah.
That makes a big difference. If it's staff, you might have the ability to get it out quicker. With the engineer, because the fact they have to work it into their workload, it might be a little bit different.
Well, Flavia, I'm very glad that you had the meeting. Sounds productive.
It
Let's
was,
move
and
on.
then another thing that we talked about was regarding to the subs, like holding the subs accountable, because it's, like we're in the contract with Tetra Tech, but they want our support in holding the subs accountable, and we told them we're not gonna step over, so if they need us, they will let us know, and then we'll go from there. We did talk about also over communicating and just taking more of a proactive approach versus the reactive approach. If something is going to be missing a deadline or whatever it is, just let us know before, not wait until Chelsea sends an email and say this was missed, and it just lets us know that we are important and that they are looking at those things, because there's a lot of feelings, not only facts, but there were also feelings because it just felt like it was going nowhere. We talked about, so my frustration, 2 meetings ago was I felt like I was in the dark. I didn't know like a lot of things that were happening because board members were talking to the vendors and then staff was not. So I was like running like which one it is. So we made it very clear that the district, they will answer to the board. If they have any issues with Chelsea, they will come to the chair. And if I'm not available, then they'll go to Ed, they'll go to the vice chair. But they're open to come to the meeting. They're here every meeting. So if there's an issue, they have to be comfortable enough to stand up there and tell us what's going on. We need to know from them. If there's a problem, go both ways. If there's something that we can do better, let us know. And the same way that we're holding it accountable to it.
Holding it inside and it festering solves nothing.
So I think it was really productive, and I was happy with everything else. I know we did miss a deadline already after that meeting, but we'll work through it, and I guess you can just either Steven can give the update on why that happened, because it was this meeting was just a week ago.
I think the board can respect the chain of command. If there is an issue, they go to the chair, as long as there's transparency from the chair. I think that's what we've always kind of said is, hey,
Yeah.
we don't mind that we have a chain of command, a process, as long as the board is aware that there's things going on that we should be made aware of. That way, if we do get a call on the side, we can say, hey, have you addressed this with staff? Have you addressed it with Flavia? And yes, I'm aware of the situation. So we don't get blindsided.
Exactly.
And then we don't have to, you don't have to come to the board and say, well, this is what I heard. Like, we're
And
already
that's
aware
kind
of
of
it.
how I felt at the last meeting, because I didn't know anything. So I think the go to Chelsea, and then Chelsea, either send it out to us, and if they feel like they're not getting through, then reach out to me or reach out to Ed. And then trust me, I have a mouth. I will make sure you all know. And I think Ed would do the same. So I think it was really good. So I'll just pass it
Well,
on.
and just to echo that, I hope you guys feel that you can call me, anytime if you have any questions. So.
Way to turn that light on.
Well, hey, good afternoon, everyone. Stephen Agapi.
Hi, Stephen.
Sorry. Yep.
Okay, then don't. Okay.
You
Never
wanted
mind.
I'm gonna let you know I was here. So whenever you're all ready, I'll proceed.
Do you feel like the items that were brought up, that we have resolution for them?
Yeah.
And everyone's crystal clear
Yeah,
on?
we're
Okay.
crystal clear, and then they are to come back to us and give us a revised task authorization with the contractual date. That's the only thing they're pending, right? And then every Tuesday.
Yep, I got the first follow-up from
Yeah.
this past
So
Tuesday.
yes, I do you feel that,
I
Chelsea?
do.
I
We're moving in the right direction.
Yes,
We're
I
having
actually-
open lines of communication.
Yeah, my only recommendation is on your weekly calls. It is more valuable for you to spend more time on some of the details as opposed to overviews, because we can do the overviews in our board meeting, but the devil's in the details of a lot of these big projects, so we need to be very clear.
to share the weekly with us.
We're very detailed in our.
Awesome, I'm sure you.
Well, there's some of these things that, me in particular, that if I would have known we were doing some of these things, that we were doing these accelerations to try to blend, maybe I could have stopped it a little earlier and say, hey, guys, You're trying to put a square in a round hole. This isn't gonna work. We're trying to go too fast. And that's exactly what we're finding out now with putting that park with the building. The park has way too many hoops to jump through that we'll talk about here later. They have to go through that are gonna hold up the building. And a lot of those hoops that if they have to do with site work and drainage, the last thing you want to do is go out there and do the building side of it and then find out that when you do the park side, it looks like this, the railroad track that comes together like that. That doesn't work. So we need to have everybody on the same page of what we're doing, and that started with the fact of accelerating.
Yeah.
If you're going to accelerate, just make sure that everybody's on the same page of what we're doing, because I think that's probably where we got a little bit of an issue
Yeah.
on some of these deadlines of failing to meet them or producing documents to try to bring this thing together. Because the problem is we got that building that's out in front, and we've got the park trying to catch up. The trouble is, we got an intermediary, South Florida Water Management District and Lee County LDO. Those people don't care about your timelines.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Well, and I think there's
So
a
they
little bit of challenge that will come from Chelsea and staff. And it's based on what we have, the philosophy that we've taken on, at least for the past 5 years, which is giving our district manager, staff the ability to do their jobs without us getting in the weeds. So I applaud proactiveness and trying to get creative, and that's great. Sometimes there might be a thin line between, okay, do I need to make the board more aware of this, or am I falling within my span of control? So we just need to continue to work on that. So that's it.
All right, Stephen, you got it.
All right, thanks, guys. Irrigation pump station generator. Oh, hold on, I'm getting some feedback from a mic.
Audio's fine on our side.
We
Steve.
can hear everything good.
Yeah, I know you guys can. I'm getting feedback from the boardroom, from external, which you guys probably can't control. You probably need to keep that on. So I'll just talk through it. Irrigation pump station generator. The generator is still scheduled for delivery on January 30th of 2025. So we're anxiously awaiting that. Irrigation and force main improvements. We have permits on those. We've been working with staff on some finer details, a couple modifications since Bill's taken over. Some changes that he's noticed that he would like to see since taking over that project. So we're working on those. And we're waiting for HMGP funding for that project.
Stephen, if we can pause real quick. So I just talking about transparency. You all authorized us to apply for hazard mitigation grant program funding. We actually applied through 2 different hurricanes, Hurricane Ian and Hurricane Nicole. We're very confident that we're going to be receiving that money, which is a 25% match, which is a huge cost savings for, this is a $3+ million project. So I just want to make sure that you all are okay with us holding and waiting until that grant funding is received before we move on that project. Because that's.
This is the irrigation and the force main improvement?
Yes, down the FPL easement.
Okay, so what we're talking about, what was that, $1.5 million, $2 million project?
No, much more than that.
Smaller than that? More.
It's 3.
It's 3+. Stephen, do you know how much that is off the top of your head?
I want to say 3.1 or
So
3.2, somewhere around there.
So it's about $750,000 grant, 25%. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'd be okay.
That might not be a bad
Holding
idea
on
to
that.
wait.
I agree.
That was the impression I was waiting. I just want to be clear. Okay, so go ahead, Stephen,
So-
sorry.
So with that being said, on our anticipated completion date, it's June 24 right now, but it's been that way for a long time. But I mean, obviously we're waiting for funding, so we're not going to release it for bid until that settles out, which is a undetermined date as of right now. So you'll see that get striked out and extended on.
So because there is, because we're waiting on something external, maybe we need to reclassify this in progress pending or something, instead of just keeping the date. Maybe there's just something.
Change order date.
Yeah, but we don't know what that date is.
You gotta guesstimate it.
I mean, it's almost like the anticipated completion date is almost on hold until we, whatever. So anyway, that's just
just say
something
you're-
you guys to think about.
We'll
Yeah,
work
just
through the
put-
paperwork.
Just put
Yeah.
an asterisk that you're basing this on
I
an
know,
extension of
just
90
leave it
days or
alone.
120 days. That's all you can do.
Okay, moving on, Griffin utility relocation. The contractor has finished all of the punch list items, with the exception of painting some of the valve covers. So it's just a minor item that we have to instruct the contractor to do. We just got clarification or notice from Austin and Bill that they're okay with the record drawings. So we're in the process of turning over all of the construction documents to Gateway staff. Laura Hawthorne well this week. The well driller was out there installing the upper casing for the well. So construction is ongoing and it's moving forward without a hitch. Gateway's utility storage building. We're currently reviewing shop drawings. The contractor is still waiting for his building permit from Lee County. His tentative schedule to start site work is June, July still. That hasn't moved yet, so he's still on his schedule. But it's pending that permit, so hopefully he'll be able to get that building permit shortly. I know we have the Gateway Admin Building and Park later on in the agenda, so I don't know if you want to talk about that now or we can skip over that one.
Skip over.
Yeah, let's skip, yeah.
Phase 2, Year 2 lake bank restoration. These are the last two lakes that Met Tower has for Lake 127 and 130. Based on their availability, they're not going to be able to start until as early as possibly November or December of this year. So those will be on hold until that time.
So you're saying that 6/1, oh, that'll make my residents real happy. So you're saying that June starts now going back?
Correct.
You
she's
had
reading-
to,
She's
right?
reading my mind,
Yeah.
and I knew that's what it was. Well, my bigger concern is this is the flowway. And the problem is that water level isn't going to get any better for the next 5 months. Right now, we're essentially at capacity or at control. So it's not going to get any better with wet season coming in. That's what scares me about 11/1. 11/1 might have some other numbers on it with like maybe
Yeah.
a 5 behind it instead of a 4.
And,
Okay, I just want to
as
be
you
able to
brought
tell my
up-
people.
As you brought up before, Ed, we do have those weir gates downstream of 127 and 130, and Daniel and Elle have they have opened those up for a couple days at a time to see how far they can draw the water down. And it does look like, we can get approximately 2 feet drawdown from control. So if we're able to do that, November, December, I think, we'll be in good shape to proceed with that work.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you got to start with 3 at least, lower 3 to be able to lower 4 to be able to lower, well, we don't have to go beyond that. At least lower 3 and 4 to get that water out of there.
Well, if you don't lower 2, you're not, there's no point in lowering
It's
3.
3
There's
and
not that
2.
much
Yeah,
water
3 and
between
2 we have to lower.
Yeah, 2 is the
Yeah,
controller.
3 yeah,
3 and 2 are
these are
downstream.
below 4. They're at 3. They're impacted by 3.
Correct. They're in the system that 3 controls.
Yes, yes.
But with that, we can only lower it 1 foot. So, because the next downstream one is only 1 foot lower than that. So we have to lower Weir 2 also to get 2 foot maximum drawdown.
Yeah, correct. Weir 3 is just not that big. 2's the controller.
So Weir 3 only has the ability to go 1 foot below control?
Yeah, because you can it'll go lower the actual gate, but because Weir
That's
2
what I
is
meant.
only 1 foot lower than Weir 3, that's where you're limited by unless you open the gate on Weir 2.
Yeah, and there's not
That's
a
your
hell of a lot
problem.
of
You have
water.
to start at the beginning and go right up. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
There's not a lot of water in 3. It's all between 2 and 3.
FY25 design, we this is one of those projects where we had an internal schedule for deliverables. Our design schedule and the TA is for in May. We had told Chelsea early on that we would have our 60-90% done. We gave her a schedule for those. Those have slid based on different priorities within the district and staff availability. One of those dates we provided for 90% was 4/16, which was 2 days ago. We did deliver the 90% to staff yesterday on 4/17. The reason for that is just, the amount of time that we estimated to make the final markups, including calling out all the trees that needed to be removed, just took a little bit longer than we had anticipated. So we were a day late on that, and my apologies for that.
Stephen, can you guys just update the task name so it's a little bit more descriptive? Because 25 design, it took me a minute.
Oh, lake, it's
The
missing a
the
word.
pond
Yeah.
numbers.
No, no,
Or
yeah,
even just,
it's-
or 20.
Yeah,
just
we'll
put
do
lake,
FY
lake-
25 lake bank restoration. Yeah, we can do
Yeah,
that.
that'd be great. Thank you.
FY 24 lake construction management, 78 and 82 are in construction. 78, they're approaching substantial completion rapidly. They've got sod down. They have most of the bank restored with exception of just their staging area. They pulled the barge out on Monday. So they're going to get that wrapped up by next week. They're not going to plant littorals until 82 gets completed so they can pull the water level back up and submerge where the littorals are going to go, and they'll plant littorals in both lakes at the same time. Lake 82's got, probably another month left of work to do, but they're making good progress. MRI has the remaining lakes, 59, 105, 125, and 128. They were finally able to provide their performance bond. So the next step is to have another pre-construction meeting because it's been a while since we had the last one. And then we'll get an updated schedule from MRI on when they plan to start that work and provide that update to you. FG, I'm going to skip public works storage. Well, Eric, do you want to talk about the public works storage building?
Sure. We had our review meeting, I think, the 2 board meetings ago. So we have proceeded with 90% design and are scheduled to have that completed at the end of the month with I believe your first meeting in May. 90% review will come before you.
There's no questions on that. The next one's the master park plan, but that's another agenda item. So I think we can move on to the remaining tasks, which are the FGUA project. Last update that we received from FGUA is that they're awaiting Lee County permit, which they're hopeful to get in the next few weeks. Their tentative schedule is to start sometime in May on State Road 82. They're going to do the directional drill under 82 and work towards Gateway. Once that's completed, they're going to do the open trench installation of the water main, starting at the back entrance of Hampton Park. That entrance is going to be affected only at nighttime is the current plan. And, Gateway staff is going to work with FGUA and us to notify the residents of any inconveniences that'll be experienced. Development updates, Arborwood, we're going to be doing another inspection. We had a punch list inspection that we did in January, provided it to Lennar. They made no progress. Chelsea forwarded it to them again in March. We didn't have a response. So we're going to go back out this week and update that punch list and put them on notice again. Daniels Parkway Apartments, we're still working through on the how we're going to supply irrigation water to the community. So that's kind of an ongoing issue there. Santa Luz, they're still working on restoring the lake bank. Santos Apartments is actually now called Garrett FM. So we'll update on the next one. A new developer bought the rights to develop that. So that we just submitted our comments this week on. So that's still in permitting review. And Prado, we did an inspection on Monday of the work they completed that was associated with Gateway, and that's an agenda item to release that bond. So everything looked good there for the Gateway items.
I have the letter he provided right here, if you guys want to read it. So this is just their authorization for approval of release that they've met all of the construction requirements.
Okay, and then Ed has a question.
Hey, Steve, you heard anything from Lennar? Santa
Regarding
Luz.
which project? Santa
They haven't
Luz.
done, they haven't done squat. They have done nothing, absolutely nothing.
I agree with that. Yeah, that was my
I
understanding
think
as
they're,
well.
I think they're testing us is what I think they're doing. Because I'm running into the same thing with the HOA. Might want to rattle a cage here, whatever we get our heads together to find out what Tony will let us do legally and what we can't do legally. This is ridiculous. Those people are, they know damn good and well they screwed up that thing and they know they got a lot of money to fix it. And they're dragging their feet.
I do believe that utility staff did they meet with Wyatt and the representative from Lennar for the utility issues?
I
Stephen?
think the utility issues have been resolved. I think the only outstanding items
It's
I
the
believe
bond.
are the stormwater items.
Yeah, the stormwater and the pond banks are far and away the issue. Those are expensive for that association to have to address, to fix. And we wouldn't let any other pond be approved like that. It's a joke. Okay, I just wondered if they contacted you and said anything, because they're ignoring me like the plague.
We'll get the updated punch list and poke them.
All right, any other questions for Stephen? Carol, Doug, Bob? Doug?
No, I'm good.
Okay, all right. Thank you,
No, I'm
Stephen.
good.
Admin agenda items, you want to take that, Chelsea?
Yep, so we have Stephen Bloom on the line to give you your quarterly update. Stephen Bloom, you there?
Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. Just switch gears here. So we're going to be going through your second quarter report, and the report itself is pretty consistent with what you're used to. But there were some items on here that I wanted to kind of just touch on, call out a little bit as we kind of look at some of the differences from between the first and second quarter. So starting with revenue, and again, we show very high level numbers in this overview, and we obviously have the financial report to support it. So when you look at it, the first thing is annual assessments at 96% collected through March. Very good number. We were just talking about assessments the other day, and we look back at 2 or 3 years, and they've always reached 100%. And we'll have the tax sale coming up in a little bit. So I would, at this point, expect your number to get to 100%. And if not, obviously we'll let you know. Overall, again, when you're looking at your second quarter, all of your percentages of budget for revenue, you want it to be at least 50% or higher. And then for spending, you obviously want it to be 50%, which would be at budget or lower. When you look at the revenue kind of across the board, very good numbers. Obviously, we talked about the assessments. Enterprise fund at about 54% of your budget. So kind of right at budget through the first half of the year. One of the things I did add to this report is your investment earnings to show you kind of by fund what has been earned through the first half of the year. Very solid numbers, very good to, especially when we do budget very conservative for interest. So, general fund about 139,000, Pelican Preserve a little bit over 100 there. Enterprise at about 87,000. So in total, and again, this includes debt service and some other non-operating accounts, about 35,000 in interest earnings just for the first half of the year. So again, most of us remember where these numbers were, year, 2 years ago. It's not very far, very old, and it's good to see that nice rebound. On the right side of there, under revenue, you can see kind of the breakdown by percentage. Top two, nothing new. Assessments and utility billing is our top two, kind of revenue generator things. Okay, so now on the other side of that, kind of looking at spending. Again, this part of it is a little bit skewed because capital projects, the timing of it, there's quite a bit of capital projects you guys are still talking about. So some of that spending is lowering the number overall when you look at the 21.4 in terms of on everything. But if we look at just the operating side of this, just the operating funds, the top 4 or 5 there, general fund at about 35% of your budget. Pelican Preserve is about 46. Stony Brook is the highest, is about 62. Town Center 32, and then your Enterprise at 38%. So really, when you look at them all, Stony Brook had some kind of one-time stuff, but the rest of them at or under budget and showing good signs as they kind of work through the numbers for the year. So that's, again, very top level, and certainly can go into any questions. Also, just kind of wanted to mention, just kind of, looking back a little bit to last year, we'll have the audit coming up in terms of the results for 2023. We've talked about kind of what's the carry forward number look like. I have not, in talking with the auditor, Jay, really no significant changes at this point to the preliminary numbers, which kind of had, the general fund at about 1.3 million, Pelican Preserve at about 450,000, kind of a carry forward. The enterprise fund will not have a carry forward because of, some of the projects and having to use cash reserves, but we'll keep updating you at once. And obviously the auditor will be presenting their report, and then we can talk about that. But those are kind of some of the carried forward numbers. We've, mentioned those before. And that kind of covers the top level. Any questions?
Steve, just one
She has one.
question of clarification.
Steve, the cap.
Oh.
Oh, somebody's
Okay,
talking.
Bob's online.
Bob, Ed had a question and I'll go to you.
Okay,
Steve, the capital project funds, that 16 million variance, what is that? 3, 4, 5 major projects that's creating that?
That's correct. And remember, it includes the bond. So for those projects, even though like we've issued the bond in prior years and the revenue and all that stuff was issued in prior years, we still have to budget
Talking about
that.
the building here. That's what I thought.
We still have to
Okay.
budget it.
Okay,
So
thank you.
yes, you're welcome.
okay. I had a question about
Okay, Bob, go ahead.
the interest expense. The total interest for the year will be, if it stays on track, double that 634. So it'll be 1,260,000. Is that correct?
Well, keep in mind now, I mean, the short answer is yes, relatively, but remember, you get your assessment funds up front, and for the most part, you're using down, it's not like you have a recurring revenue stream. So it won't quite be this number. This will be your high water mark because you get that in the first quarter and you'll keep using it and it'll go down. But it'll certainly still be significant. The district, the board, staff has always made, a concerted effort to make sure that we've gotten the best rates and done some CDs and some different things. So I'm very encouraged by those numbers.
Yeah, these are the incremental step things we've been buying to put our investments in for capital
Right.
reserves and things.
Right, but you wouldn't be able to say that the general fund will be able to earn another 138,000 just because the funds will get used up, but maybe another 100, it's,
But the
it's still
Pelican
going to be.
fund,
Yep.
Pelican fund doesn't get used up, correct?
Not all of it, no, but not in the general fund doesn't use everything. I'm just saying it won't be dollar for dollar. It won't be a 6 + 6,
Okay.
which,
All right.
but
Fair enough.
it's certainly going to be significant, and it's really a nice number to be able to add that to each of the funds.
What was it last year, just for comparison?
Oh, that's a great question. I'd have to kind of go back and check.
Okay.
Just I can, if you're really curious, I can, because I have a couple things pulled up here. For example, let me just because you're asking the question here. So the Pelican had 150, end of the year with $150,000 last year.
Okay.
So, and again, markets obviously have been rebounding for a little while.
All right. Thank you. That answers my question.
Any other questions for Stephen Bloom?
No.
Thanks, Steve.
You're
I
welcome.
don't have any.
Thank you. Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you.
So the next item is the proposed general fund fee schedule. This is a draft version, of course. We're just looking for your input and feedback right now. Anything in red has changed. You'll see strike through if we, chose to strike, change it. The importance of doing this right now is to get the fees updated if you so choose, and Facilitron for the leagues to start renting the fall season. So that way they know what their costs are. I went back to listen to the meeting from a year ago and how we said we were gonna try to get to, I don't know if it's 50 or 70. I think it's
75%, 100% in 3 years.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, so this, what is on here is the second year of what we
Mhm.
calculated last year. And talking with the leagues, 2 hours is suitable instead of the 3, so trying to accommodate them, and then just some additional items that are coming up. So we're looking for your feedback.
So this is the second incremental increase.
That we talked about, yes. And I know Doug had feedback on the last time. I think we wanted, it was regarding the pool. It was a preferred vendor.
Yep, that's on here.
It's in here.
You scroll down a little bit.
I just wanna make sure we added it.
What's the Funbrella rental?
We're installing a huge umbrella. And hopefully
You can reserve
you
that.
can reserve that.
Okay. Interesting.
If you Google them, they're actually really, really cool.
Can you tell me how many residents, I mean, non-residents pay for the pool? The yearly pass? Can you-
I don't know that we've issued any for this year for non-residents, to my knowledge. But we can look that up, prior to the hearing. I know we have a.
I think it's important, like, we're creating this, but if there's no usage, then we have to figure out why, right? Is it a cost? Is it just there's no need for it? So maybe the items that, like the dog park, everything that is non-user, non-resident, I'd like to see how many
Okay,
that we have.
Dog park too, or just pool?
everything.
Everything that's non-resident base.
And when it comes to any increases, we're giving, let's say the leagues just a good lead time.
Yeah, we told, Carrie and Georgia, they had their monthly meeting with them, a couple weeks ago, and we did give them the heads up. And I believe there was a follow-up email to that, but we wanted to get this in front of you to get feedback, so we could kind of gauge where we're going and let them know. And then also, one of the other things that I think we put in the agenda item that we need your direction on. Right now, staff is out there 10 hours a week striping the fields. I think we talked in the past about turf tank and automatic mower, or not a mower, we have that, an automatic striper. Which would drastically cut down on staff time, having to be out there and paint the lines. Daniel got cost, it's about $10,700 for the first year. It's a lease program. Staff recommendation is that we would move towards this instead of having the manpower doing it.
Can you just look at the ability to use multiple colors?
Yes, we can have. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And that's.
That's so beneficial. It is so confusing out there when we're using white for 3 different field leagues.
Have they done?
Paint logos as well.
Oh yeah, it's pretty cool. I've seen them.
And it's
What's-
like a eighth of.
What's the cost? What's the cost versus leasing it? Why wouldn't you just buy it?
It's,
We have
did you get a
some
cost?
money, like, we have the 200,000.
Did you get a cost for purchase? I think
So
say your name.
Daniel Potter, Public Works Director, there was a direct purchase, but if you look at the actual product itself, if you put it on a lease for a 3-year lease, they'll repair all parts and then they just extend beyond that. You're still gonna have to pay a service package regardless for support. I've got a pamphlet that's got the rental side of it and then the cost, but the actual cost of it's not really.
So basically you've looked at the,
I've
Yeah.
looked at it. By the time you'd have to replace the thing, you're gonna be at, your end of life span's about a 5 to 6 year span. If you just took the 3-year lease and expanded it out, if it breaks, they bring you another one. So
Yeah. I like
there's some coverage to mitigate some risk there.
Yeah.
Their quote's actually a little bit less than this. This kind of incorporates some of the paint costs, but we'll remove about $2,000 worth of painting costs from the original quote because we get it internally for free. So. Lee
And
County.
are we, so we just painted like 2 days ago, a few days ago, right? Are we planning on painting again this year? Like, do you feel like there's a need for this to?
they paint every week.
Sooner. We're getting ready
No,
to
that's what I
go-
was saying, is we can reallocate money because we have under Parks and Recs.
we're getting ready to
items.
go into shutdown for the summer.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, but if you, like you're saying, it's every week.
well,
Yeah,
we've
you paint
got,
every week.
Yeah, so then I'm
we've got
thinking,
6 weeks left, and what's the lead time on it? Probably 6 weeks.
It's less. Like it's pretty, they have a vendor here in town that can
Because
just
if,
come
if
set it
the
up.
staff is out there doing, and we know that we need staff doing other things, you know, I know like Pelican needs it, and so I'm thinking if we need just to move the money around, reallocate the money under Parks and Recs and get this done, if it's getting done on a weekly basis, it's not like a once a month
Well,
that
also-
Parks is offering, it's every week.
Well, and also too, it's nice to have a little bit of a lead time, so you
Yeah.
can play around with a little bit, because you may have to, because here's the thing, there's, the way the fields are set up today, and the leagues have done a good job coordinating with each other. So some of the lines are maybe, let's say flags width is in line with soccer's width, even though it may not be actual regulation. They do it to, so it's one straight line. So if we go to something where we actually can line according to specs, we may have to, make some adjustments. I'm not saying that, and you're talking about different colors and stuff. So a lead time
Yeah.
would be a good thing. I'd rather have some lead time, play around with it over the summer.
So the point in bringing this up was incorporating whatever that incurred cost is into the field rentals. Because last year when we were crunching the numbers, the leagues were doing the painting, staff wasn't doing the painting. And so, I mean, I think I did the math and it's like 20 cents.
Okay, well,
an
yeah,
hour.
and that's what we said that we would do it anyways, that the goal was to.
I guarantee if you go to flag and soccer and say, one, they don't want to be in the line painting business, period. I mean, we had one guy that did it for 20 plus years and he's not with us anymore. But if you could tell them we're taking that over, which we already have. But now with our new system, we can actually separate the lines through different colors. So you can have dedicated fields and they'll be done, once a week, or you can even schedule it so they're painted on Thursday prior to Friday's games. And so there's value there.
Yeah,
People don't mind paying for value.
so are you in the mindset that I have, reallocate the money and get this now?
I mean, that's what I would probably recommend.
I mean, if it wasn't a weekly,
Well,
but it is, so I'm
It's-
inclined to do that.
Great, we'll do that if that's the board
No,
direction,
that's
but
if-
it's
that's what I'm
really
asking the board.
the cost for it. Do we want to eat the cost or do we want to try to incorporate that into
20
the
cents?
rental? It's like we calculated it per hours rented for this last year. It's like 20 cents per hour rented.
So what's that equate to? Total.
That
10,000?
10,000.
That there.
Yeah,
I think we.
I mean, if you
we'll
increase
absorb
it
it this time and once we're doing the fee.
Based
schedule,
on what he
yeah.
just said, it's the
There's value for us.
value that we have.
Yeah.
I've done the math. I did the cost analysis of what it took for manpower hours plus
Exposure.
exposure out there
The answer.
versus it takes 45 minutes from the point you set it up and start it. There's a tablet, a tripod that does the GPS from satellite. So if Wi-Fi goes down or something to that effect, it does not impact this thing operating. Like AT&T's towers went down a couple of weeks back, that wouldn't impact this at all. It's very,
Well, there's another value to it too, whereas, you can cut and you can line 24, anytime within 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So you could paint early in the morning, you could paint on a Sunday evening where you don't have staff.
that's,
And it is important, and I told this to Chelsea, like those fields have to be lined. There's no exception. There is no, hey, something came up and we didn't have.
So I think I
mean-
think we're in agreement.
I ended up doing a time study on it too, that it took them 45 minutes to paint a soccer field, field 5. Took them 45 minutes and a half a gallon of paint. For my people to go out there, it was about 7 gallons of paint and
Oh.
quadruple the timeline.
Yeah, no,
So,
it's. yeah.
It just cost benefit wise.
well, we can move forward with that. Did you guys have any other questions about any of the red edits that we've made for the fee schedule? Otherwise, we'll work with Tony on putting together notices and everything required to have a public hearing.
It's 10 days prior.
I have a question. Carol,
Carol.
about a year ago was when we went to the, basically outsourced our reservation for our, the reservation system for our assets. How is that working?
From a staff perspective, I think it's working fantastic. I mean, the leagues, I'd have to touch base with Carrie and Georgia, but I know we've had some internal transition, so
There was some feedback. I know Mark has given me some feedback regarding, it wasn't really user friendly. I tried to use it too at first, but everything that I had mentioned to Georgia, it was taking care of it. But I'll definitely say reach out at least to Mark.
Yeah.
because he did have some feedback regarding, Facilitron.
Yeah, no, and having monthly meetings with them, gives them
It's
the
helping.
opportunity to
Yeah.
vocalize any of
Right.
those issues.
And one thing that we can do, I can't remember what the signage might say around, fields or for league and permitted use only. Would be nice, if maybe we can enhance one of those signs, put a QR code up to the Facilitron.
There
So
is,
there's already one up there now?
We
Okay,
like them all.
where is it? Where is it? I haven't seen.
In multiple areas all
Is it?
over. Yes.
It's on
Okay.
fence line, it's on pavilions.
yeah.
Okay, good, because that's
We-
great.
so-
If you have a question, if they want to rent.
I can't believe I hadn't seen it.
We actually had Sunday illegal usage, and Carrie went out there and said, hey, scan this code, it's right here, and rent it, and they did. So it's been
They
effective.
rented it on the spot?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what I said about the pool, like a
Wow.
few times I talk to staff when they go in and they don't have the card, it's like, at least two of the people at the pool, they didn't know. I said, look, when they come here and they don't have it, you don't turn them around, you say, hey, you want to use it. This is the fee and this is how we go. But I guess there was an issue because they couldn't take credit card payment there.
Yeah.
But it's like, instead of just turning them around, say, no, we want you to do it. It's just gonna be a fee and then, move on for it.
That's awesome.
Hey,
Okay.
I am going to ask for a 5-minute break.
Okay,
Go
so,
ahead, Carol.
so if our reservation system is working really well, is it possible that we can include those costs into these fees also?
It already
Yeah.
is. It's the 10% fee that Facilitron charges
Right.
is paid for by the end user. We have it's $10,000. We have to meet 10% of 100,000, so it's 10,000 a year, and we have hit that, to my knowledge. We have not been billed for,
They will.
yeah, so the end
Okay, so
user
these
does pay
fees
that
would
cost.
include that, our outsourcing of that reservation system.
You'll see on here, Carol, it says, under Facilitron administrative fee, right above Sherman Soccer Complex, it says 10%. That's the fee that's charged directly to the renters those using Facilitron.
But it is not included in the total that's on the sheet, so they have paid $35 plus an hour plus 10%.
Got it. Okay. Okay, thank you.
I'm just gonna like a 3-minute break,
Okay,
because we don't have a quorum. I will be back.
Yeah, okay.
5 minutes?
we'll take a 3-minute break.
3 minutes. It's even faster.
Yeah. Mark, if you want, but.
I don't mind waiting for.
Well, in the meantime, I can just kind of give you guys an update where we are with this next item with regards to the budget initiatives.
Going to, okay.
Yeah. So at your last meeting, we started discussing budget initiatives, staffing, total compensation packages and how we can enhance that and retain current staff. So I posed that to, the directors and managers and said, hey, let's brainstorm what are some ideas? And so on here, we've got a couple bullet points. Some of them are truthfully not feasible. We have looked into like the Florida retirement system, although that would be amazing. It's truthfully, it's too costly for, yes, I did, for our size. we did get some feedback, flex schedules for salaried employees, maybe having one day a week that they're able to work, from home and have some quiet time. Potentially floating holidays, rewards programs. Right now, we max out PTO. You use it or you lose it, but we do offer 2 times a year to buy out in 40-hour increments.
That
So
100%.
Yeah,
up to 1 year. So
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I remember that.
So
Kenny.
we've enhanced it in that sense. Another idea which we haven't vetted through our HR attorney yet is talking, I think Doug, you mentioned that last meeting, is there, if you've been here for so long, is there a way to enhance your benefits, for your years of service to the district? And one of the ideas was, right now we do a 3% match. Could you increase that with, hitting a milestone of years of service at the district? So I don't know if we can even do that. We'd have to consult with Suzanne, but Laura put together, Ed asked at the last meeting, the what ifs, what if we enhanced our benefits and we subsidized a certain point? So with that, I'll turn it over to Laura so she can explain all the fun numbers.
Sure. It was a little challenging because I have no idea what our insurance premiums are going to be for next year. I only know what they're going to be through December. So that's why this part at the top is what we're currently paying. And then I just assumed a 15% premium increase. We've been very fortunate the last 2 years that we have had a very minor increase in our, $100 in our premium. So it's been very, very small. But I'm not holding my breath for next year. But so what this is, the top part, we have 2 different plans. We have an HMO plan and an HSA plan. This column over here is how our employees are currently enrolled in our insurance. So as you can see, for the HMO plan, everybody's on the employee only, which we fund 100%. We have 4 of the 5 people on the HSA plan who are on the employee only, and 1 does have the employee plus spouse. Chelsea asked me to do a best guess if we were to offer this as a benefit and everyone were to take insurance based on if they have a spouse, if they have children, if they have family, where I thought they would fall. So that's what this potential enrollment is. So of the 20 people that are employee only, there are 9 who are employee only. 6 would have a spouse, 1 with children, and then I had 4 that I said might do family insurance. Same down here. I just assumed this would stay the same because they were single people and then someone with a spouse. So that's where these numbers come from. Right now, the annual cost for a single employee only is this $10,063.92. That's the cost we incur annually for 1 employee for insurance. So if you multiply that by 9, that's where this comes from. And it's the same across the board because there's no cost to the employee for that. Same down here. And then for the employee plus the spouse, the cost actually is like 50-50. We cover the employee portion, and then the additional portion actually comes out to the same as what the employee cost is. So with the 6, that would be a split here with us contributing nothing for the extra coverage. And same here, employee plus children and then family. So that's how this works. So this first column here is where we're currently at, where we are not contributing anything to the cost of any insurance above just employee. This next column is if we would contribute 15% of the cost, this is what the change would be. And then the impact to us on the bottom down here would increase ours by $21,511.62. If we did 25%, it would increase it by $35,000. And then if we split the costs, it would increase it by about $72,000.
But what we would have to look at is it would be a set amount per employee. Because let's say we do 50%, if I'm single and Flavia's in a comparable job, she's family, we wouldn't give her more benefit bonus than we would give me. That's.
You would be, I guess, in a way.
I didn't look at a benefit bonus. I just did.
No, I'm using benefit bonus as a placeholder, but you know what I mean?
I did mine based
I
on cost of
Flavia, we
premium.
could be doing the same job. She's gonna end up in her total rewards getting paid 10,000 more than I am. I'm just throwing that number out there because she has a family and I don't. So we have to think, okay, we're gonna give a certain,
You talk about user class.
yeah, user class, or, there's a certain number. You either use that money towards your benefits or I mean, I have to, this is not my area of expertise, so.
This,
there a
it gets
pro-
it gets very complicated and
complicated
it's
because-
very, and there's a lot of legal loopholes we have, I shouldn't say loopholes, there's a lot of legal stuff that we need to work through in order to do that. We do have that discussion with our broker every year about like, what if we were just to say, here's $2,000, how do you want to spend it on your insurance? And it's very complicated. Not saying we can't do it, but it's not as simple as just going, okay, if you're hourly.
Yeah,
you
you
get
just can't
this,
use
if you-
this grid because it's
Right,
not.
this
it's
is,
not
this
equitable
is
across the
strictly,
line.
this is strictly with the premiums the way they are now. If we were to cover 50% of the premium or 25 or 15 of the additional costs of someone above the family.
But this is what I'm
That's
saying
the
is,
cost
I
that
don't
they
know if
had.
this is apples to apples, because if, let's say, even if we agree, you know what, we should be paying up to 50% for benefits. Well, if I'm single, that's not being calculated because that's at a zero.
Well, you're getting 100% of yours covered if you're single.
Yeah, well, everyone's getting
Yes.
100% of theirs covered.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, even if we're at 50%, that means there's going to be 11 individuals out of the 20 that are getting additional benefits above and beyond someone that is single. So even if we go 50%, that's not apples to apples, because we either have to figure out how do we provide equity across all member class. So, and this is great because it gives us an idea of like how much we would need to budget, but I don't know if the numbers is apple to apples. We'd have to go back to
Sure.
our HR consultant and say, in a benefit environment, if we are providing additional coverage outside of just employee today, what do we have to do? Do we have to offer? Is it a set amount that everyone, you either use it for your benefits or you get that cash back? Or is there a policy that, look, if you're single, then you're just not eligible for the additional bonus, but that could create some other issues. So I think this is a great starting point. Now we need to ask some of the difficult questions, and I applaud, we don't have to get there this year necessarily. Like, we want to constantly make improvements. But this should be something that we're looking at annually, which I think you guys are in that mindset because you brought this to us.
And I mean,
Just
then,
trying to get us competitive.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then you also have people who don't take the insurance, like myself, that's $10,000 in benefits that I don't get every year because I don't take the
Yeah.
insurance.
And also, like, my wife has better insurance than I do. So I can get a benefit bonus, and that money we can use to offset what we pay on hers. So, and in some cases, employers would much rather you, if you have alternatives, to go through the alternatives because it's cheaper, if you're not using it. So, but this is a really good start. But there's a lot of moving parts here.
You got to find out, as you start getting this disparity between classes, it gets ugly real quickly. And that's basically where that can head.
Yeah.
Same thing as you got somebody that's real healthy and somebody that's not. That
Oh,
other
but
one
we're
could,
not
I mean, you go into a deep hole.
So
It's
I
not-
guess we're looking, at least with regards to the staffing portion and the overall compensation packages, is would you entertain the notion of, a subsidized amount? If so, what percentage? And then we can go and say, okay, how do we make this apples to apples for the single folks that, wouldn't have that added benefit if I had a family?
Yeah, really what we're looking at is, what do we perceive our budget for next year on benefit enhancement? What does that number look like? Because we're gonna have to back into whether it's 50, 25 or getting creative. So I almost think that you maybe I think maybe starting out, I don't know if we would jump straight to 50%, because we've got a lot of other things from a priority perspective. So we might look at just pay increases.
Well, 35,000 on a 25% basis for 20 employees, that's not a big ticket item.
Yeah.
That's not a big ticket.
No.
item. In fact, for that matter, 71,000 is not a big
It's not a big
ticket item.
But if we're looking at whether it's merit or parity increases in salary, that I don't know if we have anything planned. I know we did some last year because we needed to create some parity with market trends, market conditions. So I think we did offset some.
Market wise, I think we're right where we need to be.
Okay, so we don't have any planned outside of just standard merit and performance. I don't know what we call it. I can't remember what we call it, but we don't have anything in
Yeah.
addition to.
I don't-
Okay.
I don't think you can discriminate when you're talking about these kind of plans here. I don't think you can do that. In other words, go in there and use a merit basis as to whether you get.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
You can't do
No,
that.
what I was saying is, last year, we put in the budget an amount, to bring certain, roles up to the current standard, because we were far behind. We did a market
Yeah,
adjustment.
that's
Yes, thank you.
separate issue.
That is separate. But I was asking, do we have any market adjustments planned for this year? Because if we're doing market adjustments and we're looking at benefit enhancements,
That's a different.
that might take us, above what we think we can.
It might impact it.
I do not have any plans for market
Okay,
adjustments.
so this would be the benefit for this year, which makes sense. If we did market adjustments last year, maybe the next 2 years, we're doing benefit enhancements, and then in 3 years, we may have to do another market adjustment.
And polling our people, is this the buzz for them? Is this a key issue?
Did
Because it's what?
too expensive, even with the contribution.
Oh, too expensive for their share.
If we weren't contributing as well.
No, even if we
If
did
we did.
contribute, they still wouldn't make it.
So I think this comes hand in hand, like we talked about at the
That
last
may be
board
what we
meeting.
need to do a survey. Let's find out.
I
Because if
get
we're
it.
sitting here chasing a goose, talking about 25 or 50, if they're going to take it either way, what are we doing it?
Well, we also need to know what
Chuck and I kind of talked about.
we
this
also
too.
need to understand what, I don't want to say competitors, because it may not be competitors, but what does the county do? What does the city do? What are other,
And the state also, state probably some.
and the state as well?
Bigger pools, that's the problem.
Yeah.
So,
But that's fine. At least we need to know, like, if we're losing talent to city, county, or other areas,
so
is it, why we're losing? Is it stat-based salary?
Yeah, we need
Is it
some more
bonus? Is it
information.
benefits?
one of the things that we talked about at the last meeting was really, if this were to occur, this needs to go hand in hand with looking at us joining Florida League of Cities or Bigger Fish.
Mhm.
And being in a bigger pond, that way we can get better rates.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, if we can do both of these in tandem, cost savings, and increased benefits, that would be the key for.
That would be huge.
And honestly, if, we can poll staff, but until you have the numbers, until they know what it's gonna hit them per paycheck, it's hard, it's a guessing game.
Yeah.
Right. And I do have 3 separate brokers in addition to the one we're currently using that are waiting to contact me in October when we'll be able to get our new premiums. So I have lots of dealers out there to get in some bigger group clients to hopefully get our rates down.
If you take some of the, especially younger people, they'll roll the dice and forego this to expending more money for risk. They won't do it.
Sure.
They won't do it.
Yeah.
And
Well, at
so
least
we-
we're having the conversation and we're starting to look
Yeah.
at some numbers.
So
Give
this,
them numbers, then go from there.
this was one component of this, item for discussion. So if, again, we're at budget initiatives discussions, we are, Laura is knee deep, probably soon to be eyes deep in, budget worksheets with staff. I know she spent some time this morning with Bill. We will have a draft budget to you at your next meeting. But is there any other initiatives that you guys would like for us to crunch numbers on?
No, but I do, so are you going to go back to the staff and do a survey for insurance?
That's what I would.
I will, but I mean, it's hard without knowing what it's actually gonna cost.
If they're gonna,
But
I would
just
suggest
just
doing
in
it.
general, I think
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
and then, and honestly, I would have just put it as an open question, like, what else?
Do it
Like,
at 10,000
what
feet,
else?
because if it's just no, hell no, then let's just don't go.
And it's not, I
that
think what
deep.
Flavia's trying to say too, it's not just benefits.
It's something
what-
else,
what-
because I did.
What would enhance,
Chas and I talked about one item and we disagreed on this one, so I guess it'll be a board decision on it. But I think I see a benefit for staff, which is holiday and overpay. So if they work, if there's a holiday that falls within this week and they work more than 32 hours, they do not get paid overtime.
Until they physically work 40 hours.
40 hours, so they would have worked 40 hours plus they get 8 hours holiday pay. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It's Carol.
Oh, it's Carol.
So what
I think we need to do some type of, at least minimal survey to find out.
well,
where they're at.
what I've seen in some other areas is if you work on a holiday, you are automatically paid time and a half.
Yeah, and that's-
On the holiday, yes. And the thing is that if Lee County's HR manual, which I pull every year, you have to physically work 40 hours in a week. If there's a holiday, you don't get paid. Like if they would happen to work 33 and a half hours during the week and you get 8 hours of holiday pay, which puts you at 48.5 or 43.5
They get
hours for the
straight
week, they get straight pay because they didn't actually work 40 hours, which also falls under federal labor standards, so. that's
Which is
not-
fine, but what we're looking at is what it's, at the end of the day, it's gonna be a very small amount. And if that's, and it's playing the lottery because they may not work and they may work. And we already know the holidays hours that are set. If there is something that they want, if there's an opportunity for, I just put a question, what else? Like, not that, but what else? But I think
Yeah, we posted. for
given that
manager-
what we are utility and given that it's
Well,
always.
the two areas that I think, and they're not used that often, but it does look good, is holiday pay. And I don't know how I classify it, but if we do have a hurricane and you're asking someone to come in and hazard pay.
They get paid,
Okay, so we already have that on the books. Okay, yeah, on that.
I don't think that's gonna swing the deal one way or the
No, no, I
other.
don't, no.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, just keep it open.
Yeah, well, we can post.
They may say they don't want anything.
Right? Anything else for this item?
No.
No.
So this next item is just, I put it on here because you tabled it at a previous meeting to this meeting, hoping that we would have resolution of the auditing issue. We do not, so my request is that you table this to a future meeting.
Okay, so move to table.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, this next item, Stephen mentioned it earlier to you. Tetra Tech, our district engineer, is satisfied with the valley gutters that were fixed as a direct result of a couple meetings ago. So ultimately, we're looking for your approval for release of the Prado bond.
What's Bob's son?
Bob,
Yeah,
what's your thought?
I talked today to Deborah, the president of the HOA, and they're making great progress. They're finished with the negotiation, and all the work should be done within 4 to 6 weeks. So they're okay with it.
So it's a go?
Go, release it.
That's what I mean.
So
Yeah,
motion to
release the bond.
approve.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Stephen, are you still on the line? Do you want to take the next item?
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, so the next item is Lake 109 golf course side only. When we presented the 60% plans for the FY25 Lake Bank Restoration Project, which the original plan was to send that to SRF in their August hearing, Ed pointed out that the golf course is undergoing maintenance right now and is shut down. So this would be an opportune time to do any work on the golf course side, so we're not interfering with their operations in season. So at that time, board instructed us to try to get some cost alternatives, come up with some numbers, and ultimately get a quote for the work. We, asked some of our current vendors if they were able to do the work and what that cost would look like. We reached out to 3 vendors, but we reached out to more vendors. We got prices back from 3, which are included in this letter. So typically, what our current plan is for FY25 lakes, we have 90% right now submitted. We're going to take those to Lee County for LDO permitting. Right now, the Lake 109 portion of the golf course side portion has not been permitted yet. So that's kind of a sticking point right now, is we don't have a Lee County permit to proceed with this work. So we were instructed to pull this out, see if we could get cost to do the work. The numbers came in really low, lower than what we're.
Stephen, I don't
We
have
don't have
the
any
compiled.
numbers.
He got them. Did you have the sheet and send it to me? So that way we can
Yes,
pull it up?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
I don't
I did send it to you. Yes, Chelsea.
What time?
It's like 2:20. It was not that long ago.
I don't,
Uh,
I don't see
two-
it. I see Prado.
2:20. Yeah, 2:29 bid recommendation letter. I can share my screen, I
have-
guess.
Yeah,
I get permission. I
you
can
have
share
it?
my screen.
Stephen, why do we have to get, that this is gonna be a real reach? Why do we have to get a permit on maintenance?
I've always asked that question. They always end up giving us one. But Lee County's opinion has always been that we are required to get one. You know, maybe for this lake, it will be different, but they've always had the opinion that we need to get a permit.
That might be a way to get around that. And the other one is, why did we leave out the two littoral zones?
Okay, so the two littoral zones, for one, they're not inside of Gateway's easement, and they're also not that badly eroded. There really isn't much erosion in those two areas that I could tell. It didn't seem worthwhile to do that work in that area, and your easement doesn't encompass those spots.
So here's a question. Does it, when we hit dry season and control elevation drops, those areas are just,
Ugly.
yeah, well, and it,
And really ugly.
Kinda smells over there
Alligator
and-
flag in it. They get really
Yeah.
ugly.
yeah.
Are they trimming though? Like, are we,
It never gets super tall there.
They can, but we.
they can't, because I think we're doing it 3 feet above water, right, or something like that, but otherwise it's.
Yeah, and when the water level drops down substantially, then they start getting really ugly and they just drop over.
Well,
they're
and-
horrible.
I mean, I understand it being a littoral shelf, but I don't really see where it is a littoral shelf, like if there's any benefit there. I would much rather just,
Littoral
just-
shelf is a wild
I think that's a
use
kidney.
of the
I don't think-
definition.
I don't
We
think
have
that
not
is-
Done it for years.
I don't think this is a littoral shelf. I think this is a kidney, what do they call
Well,
it?
kidney filter.
That's a kidney
Yes.
in it, so that it,
Say-
I was
basically
fine.
the same.
And understanding, but yes, yes.
So the thing is, okay, I wanted to know that, but I thought that maybe the maintenance issue might be a way to get around and get this going, but you mentioned earlier the prices came in, but I don't see any prices.
He's got control of the screen now. So Stephen, can you share the pricing?
wait, and just, are we comfortable with, like, with these two areas, leaving them?
It's outside of our like maintenance.
Yeah,
easement.
well, I see the one where the kidney, or whatever we call it, the kidney, but the other one,
So
why don't we just?
this one is outside of the easement. This one is in the easement, but it was- it looks like it was designed as a littoral zone. The golf course super said that there used to be littorals here and in this location, but he said they didn't survive, and he kind of blamed it on like the treatment of maybe some of the, I don't know. It wasn't very clear, but he said they didn't really survive. But he said it's usually dry enough you can walk across this in dry season. There's actually an inlet somewhere over here.
Yeah, no, I'm not nitpicking on that. I just want to make sure that we get this done because they are proceeding with the golf course. The area on the slope and the drop offs in those areas are truly not as bad as the rest of it. So if I get
Did Ed
one.
turn off his mic?
Down there at the far north end,
Oh, Ed, your mic's off.
Oh, I think I turned it off then.
down at that far north end, that little piece there, I don't know, it's one of those things, if you go up there,
It's
how far up,
really weird, yeah.
how far up do you go?
Well, what I would do is I would not do that one and
But,
bridge the
Okay,
gap right there.
okay, so
Do that.
let me ask you, Stephen, does the development order requires for that specific location on Pond 119? Because I know some, they have a like a location, and some they're just a percentage. Do you recall if that particular littoral shelf there, it's required to be at that location or no?
We couldn't find any littoral requirements for Lake 109, period.
So
Then
if
just-
anybody,
Then just,
does anybody disagree if we take that one section on the island and move it
move it here? I
and move
don't.
it here and just make it,
Well, your problem with that, Doug, though, is
You
that
need it there.
you got a significant drop off
You
right
need it.
there, next to that little 1 inch section there next to the structure.
well, couldn't you just, I mean,
That is. a
isn't that
drop.
matter of just grading that? Or do you feel like we have to do
If
it?
you don't do something it's pretty salty. It's
Okay.
it's a steep drop off there.
Would the club be willing to do anything with that? Wow, why are you laughing?
All right,
If
I'm
they-
holding my
It
tongue.
was sinister over there.
I mean, if they don't like it and they want
Well,
to just.
how much would it cost to just do that one
Yeah,
section?
and then-
Can't be that much.
Well,
I mean, even if,
what's your running footage, coming out, Steve? That I thought you had the bids up there or the proposals up there and that you went too fast. I lost them.
Sorry,
What was the
so
total
we're
cost? Yeah, there you go. So.
192
and it's
with
13
a
and so it's
10%.
running about 150 a foot, right?
Yeah, so
You're running
Brad,
about $150
with
a
Extreme
foot.
Divers was the low bidder. For the actual restoration, it was $101 a foot. Was the low bid when that, so the total price includes a 10% owner allowance, just in case, we see something that we need to add on, which maybe in this case, adding a little bit of restoration work. And at $100 a foot, it's not that, it wouldn't be that expensive to add in that part that Doug was talking about.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me one way or the other. The one thing that you have on both of those zones, kidney filters, whatever you want to call them, the slopes on those are probably 8, 9, 10 to 1. They're essentially flat as a pancake. If you come off the ninth
Yeah.
tee, go down to the sand, when the water level rises, the water comes up into that sand.
Yeah.
So it's very flat.
I think, I think we
It
just
look-
take that one little section
it
and just
look-
fill that in. And then we leave the kidney the way it is and, I mean. 'cause
Now, when you say
Well,
fill
my only
in, what do you
question,
mean?
Doug, this was reviewed with the golf course superintendent and he was happy with it,
Oh,
right?
that,
Prepared.
yeah,
Yes.
that one, I wouldn't, there'll be a lot of people happy about that because a lot of balls go there.
I guess,
But
can you, Doug, can you direct Stephen for the, on the aerial as to what location you're talking about? Maybe filling in?
I'm talking about the gap.
The middle one, about 150 yards off the green. There you go.
That one right there?
Yeah.
Right there.
And that's totally within the lake maintenance easement or drainage easement, Stephen?
Kinda.
Because doesn't, is there a
That's our
drainage
dash
easement over
line
the
for
entire-
the easement.
Is there a
This-
drainage easement over the entire golf course?
No, not that we could
Oh,
find.
This was reviewed with the golf superintendent, correct?
Yes.
As proposed? And if he didn't have a problem with it, I don't think we should.
Except we need an easement for that area in order to spend the district's money.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Don't
Then I
spend
guess
the
it's
district
gonna
money.
get delayed,
It's
forget
not-
it.
it's-
It's
yeah.
not worth
Do
it.
it as
Like you said, if
proposed.
you want to come back and do it, let them do it.
Approve it as
Yeah.
proposed.
Okay.
Now, the thing is though, is right now, are these bids that you received or are they estimates?
These are bids,
They're bids.
They're proposals.
proposals,
difference?
sure.
Bids are formal, more formal. These are proposals that we received.
Well, I'll
I think
ask it
if
the
we
other way.
approve
Can
it-
we award a contract on these? Or do we have to go back and be more formal?
No, we.
Based on our previous board meeting, we determined that we could reach out to these vendors and get pricing and
Because I
move
thought we had a
forward.
dollar value deal.
This is construction because it is upgraded repair. That's different than maintenance. And it's under the $500,000 threshold for the formal sealed competitor process under the.
Oh, okay, well, if that's the case,
20. But this, so
if that-
Stephen solicited proposals from these vendors and sealed proposals, correct, Stephen, or not?
Yes.
okay, if we do that and you're talking about the need to get the permit, will the permit take long enough that we could always do a formal proposal or a formal bid? But it doesn't sound like to me we need to do
We
that.
don't need to do it.
We don't need to do
No.
that. Let's just go ahead and what's the timeline in getting this these necessary permits from the county to do this? We talking 30 days? Or I hope we don't go much more than that because they're working.
Yeah, so when I talked to the golf course super, his plan was to resod this hole in mid to late May, so about 30 days to 45 days from now. And he did mention that he could leave, a little buffer zone for, construction efforts to continue after they resod, and they can come back and, touch up that area if our work is not complete at that time. So with that being said, the permits probably are going to take, we can submit them, as early, probably as Monday, we can get them submitted, and then it's going to be in Lee County's hands for 30 days. And then hopefully we get it approved on the first shot. We could have it a permit as early as, I want to say 45 days, but there could be a resubmittal, which would add another, 45 days.
I think let's move on this. So I'll make a motion that we award the contract for Lake Bank 109 to Extreme Divers, contingent upon identifying, so do we need to include that,
The funding?
the funding?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have $520,000 available in the bond under Lake Bank Point repairs and maintenance, if you wish to take it from that.
That's what we do.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
As is.
As is.
All right,
As
so
is.
we're
As
doing option
proposed.
one.
As proposed.
Yes, option one.
Okay,
With
10
the
four.
funding coming from the existing bond.
Bond. Okay,
All righty.
Next.
thanks, Stephen.
So Stephen, we need to work through the contract documents with Randy, please, on that for
Do
extreme.
do we want to try to get the permit first, or do we want to issue, get a contract going with Brad, or how do you want to?
Both
do
at the
that.
same
Both
time.
same time, yeah. And then
Okay.
call whoever it is at the county to try to grease the pole.
And just out
So
of curiosity,
I
go ahead, Steve, sorry.
So I didn't mention this, but I wrote it in our letter. I was talking to Tyler and he said if there is an LDO associated with any of the golf course work, it may be faster to piggyback on that and do an amendment to their LDO to get this work included. And that may speed things up. So we can look down that avenue as well.
Anything to
Good.
speed it
Good
is
idea.
good.
And just because I don't remember, so that's 109. 108 is right there as well. What are we doing with 108?
That's down the road,
24.
another
26.
year, another deal.
Okay.
Proceed working through the contract documents and scheduling with Extreme Divers, setting up a pre-con, Tetra Tech applying for permits, and working through a staging area as well.
Good.
Right? Next. Can you pull up that?
You awake, Bill?
So this next item is the master park plan. So if you recall, 2 meetings ago, you guys voted to move the dog park up here. So that's why it's taken some time for this to come in front of you, because we have to make those edits. Bill Pricey.
Recent.
I didn't want to butcher it, is here, and I believe Eric Fye, yes, Eric Fye is on the line. In your board packet is the master plan. This was a pretty picture that Holmontes, Bill and his team were able to put together. Again, this is just the master plan. The only thing that has forward movement on is, other than the admin building, is the court sport components, the trailhead and the playground. So with that, we're looking for comments, input, discussion.
Can you go to that slide where it shows phase, what you're?
The phases, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you go back to the agenda packet. There's multiple pages, but we can start with that one.
So what we don't have here in phase 2 is is the dog, no.
Wait,
Dog park here.
let's do it this way. The admin building, we know is the yellow.
Yeah.
Okay, now it gets complicated.
And that's approved.
That's
in flight.
That's part of the project. The issue is that right now is that pink, that's the same as the pink, that's the fields, which is included in the project. That pink is the same as that pink. Is it included in the project? That's been driving me crazy. This pink right here, that parking zone.
That's
that
phase
just
2.
All of a sudden showed up. I am of the opinion that the pink that is in the bid, the alternative bid, is just the sports.
Well,
park.
but you gotta have parking if you're gonna have amenities.
But
May-
I know,
may
but
I
that wasn't
try-
my question. My question was, is it included? I don't think it
May-
is.
may I chime-
Yeah.
So, and Bill can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, please, and Eric online. So the phase 2 has essentially been split into 2A and 2B. The parking counts, as you may recall with the admin building, we had higher than required. So we had plenty of additional parking for the admin building component. With the yellow stalls, I'll call them, along the drive-through. And I don't want to put words in Holmontes's mouth, but Rick Berlansky has said that the counts will be sufficient for the phase 2A, which is just the upper portion of the courts, that we will meet the requirements of having those amenities with the parking that is only in the yellow. So if you chose to do in the future, you could choose to do the line of parking.
So
Yeah, but-
here's my question, because I saw.
You don't do that.
I saw.
Yeah, you don't do that. You don't build an amenity. And for one, ask people to walk 50 yards to it in the grass and dirt. I mean, if that's the case, that's just doing something half-assed.
No,
See this? We already have this.
Yeah, well, some of that is there. Some of that is there where you're going through the common area. My deal goes a little bit deeper than that. As I recall, when we had a set of drawings, not a master plan, we had a set of drawings. We had a swale that carried the drainage.
Sorry, keep going. I believe it's on here, what you're asking.
Yeah, I'm trying, okay, well, you might, well, it doesn't show it on this. It was on the plans, which is what we're really basing everything on. But all of a sudden, that swale that carries the water from point A to point B is gone. How's that water getting there?
It's still there.
Where's the swale in that picture?
It's not in the master.
See, that's
Yeah,
what,
thanks.
that's what's driving me nuts.
Go
These
pricey
things, every
landscape
drawing
architect
is
with home
different,
content.
and it's, I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
There is a difference between the master plan document, which is really just to give you an illustrative of all the elements and where they go and how they work. But what you're talking about is the more specificity of like.
Well, I just want to make sure it works.
It's it's there, but
Okay,
it's,
so you're
that's
saying-
in the working drawings,
So
not
you're
in the
saying
master
that
plan.
on this drawing here that she just described as not needed, Doug's saying that it's, what was the word?
Need it.
No, there was another.
Half-
Half-assed.
Half donkey.
Sorry, 2 words. You're saying that that swale, I'm taking it, is along the black line separating the yellow and the pink.
If you don't build the parking area that's 2B, the swale will be right on that edge as it was designed. If you build 2B, it'll be on the other edge.
Bill, which
So
one's too
that
big?
swale is
Can you
always,
go up the, I can't see where you're talking
Two
about.
B is the parking strip.
well, if you look at the lines that separate the parking for,
Yes.
that's gonna feed to the,
Yes,
then you look at 2B, which is the pink parking.
yes.
And then you actually have
Well, you
parking in the future phase in green, which you would never need unless you build a gym. So really, if you look at those 2 lines of parking, that's what you would need for the
Okay,
entire build
I
out.
just want to get clarified. because
I am,
when
and
you
I'm
put in
getting
the
to
swale,
that. I'm
it
getting to
takes a
that.
lot of room. And
But
what you're saying
That
is
swell takes about, and I don't want to
15,
put words in Rick's mouth, about 20 feet.
15, 20 feet, that'd be
Yeah.
my guess.
Yes, but if the 2B doesn't get built, that swale will be on the east side of the yellow area.
Okay, okay.
If 2B gets built, it'll be on the east side of the pink area.
And just for,
So that swale
Yeah,
will
but
be
that-
there.
But that's a problem though, Bill, as I see it, because you get down there and you're hitting existing structures and there's no place for the swale to go.
Well, it'll be engineered
Unless you
correctly,
do it
so it'll
private.
work. It'll be piped, correct.
Okay, that's.
so let me make sure I'm
It'll
clear.
cost you a little more when you go that route.
So
Okay, that
Phase-
was what I was coming
phase,
up with.
phase 1 is admin building. That's in progress. Phase 2 is the courts.
Phase 2A.
Phase 2A are the courts
And the site, and site work.
and site work. 2B is the additional parking.
Yep.
Now, is the playground?
The playground is in 2A.
It's
Okay,
in,
playground is 2A and the dog park that's not,
actually, it's not very clear that the playground is in 2A.
playground's in 2A and then the dog park is 2B or,
Future
okay.
phases.
We have a spot for it, but we
Yep.
haven't determined what phase it might be in.
Well,
as-
it's not.
But it is not in,
It's
it's not in
the
2A.
project.
It is not in 2A.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so, one step at a time. What's
Two A
the
is
cost?
shown on sheet 5, page 5 of 11, if you want to look at that.
Doing what?
Keep going. All right, one more. Right there. There you go. That is 2A. So your trailhead, your court sports, and your
And-
site work,
and
and the
all your site
playground,
work.
and the playground.
And the
yes.
playground.
What's the cost of that project right there?
That's actually getting hard bid as we speak.
That's not what I asked. Here we go again. What's our engineer's estimate of this?
We don't have the finality on that yet, Ed. I wish I could have came here with
We
those
have a
numbers with
contract
it.
that says the deliverable is supposed to have been here at the 90% point. We're at the 100% point.
Eric, do you have?
Bill, I'll even take it, give it to me the nearest 50,000. What are we talking? Are we talking $500,000? We talking $600,000? We talking
Bill, you wanna
$200,000?
see if Eric can answer that question.
Yeah, Eric, if you can jump into it, it's just, there's a lot of moving pieces, Ed, and they
Because
haven't.
you're asking me for an approval on that. This is a blank check, guys.
Well,
I'll vote
let me
no.
let me preface this with one thing, and I think this will help tremendously, is Chelsea's really conceived this in a very, very smart way of going about it, because right now what you're doing is you're permitting this to get built, and it's not, when you permit this to get built, you're not spending a dime other than you're memorializing the ability to do so without ever going back to that
Well,
well.
my point is.
Which you get, I'm getting there,
Yeah,
Ed. I'm getting to that, is that as far as the pricing goes, for the time being, it is to basically put the infrastructure in for 2A. And then having it come in and having it designed, built by, there's a couple different vendors that'll come in and actually build the
Yeah,
elements. So
I don't care about the mechanics.
But I'm just
saying
saying,
when we're all
those
done-
numbers are all, we just don't have them all priced to give you
But-
right at
but
this moment.
I'm not
Let
asking
me-
for a bid. I'm asking for an.
Eric,
we need a-
Eric may.
We anticipate this coming in between 400,000 and 800,000. I'm just, hypothetical. Even that I would be okay with because court costs and do you want a Mercedes or do you want a
Can we
Honda?
let Eric answer?
Yes, I didn't hear him.
$216,000.
There you go.
How much?
$216,000 is our current estimate for the phase 2A site improvements.
And you're getting all those courts and those pavilions and all that for that
No.
price?
No,
That's the
those are
site.
not part of the
Listen,
bid.
guys, what part? I am so tired of this. I've asked a question, what is the cost? Not what's half the cost. I'll use your expression, half-ass. I want the total cost. What is this when it's done that I'm paying for?
They don't have it.
Well, then I'm not voting to proceed.
Hold on.
This is bullshit. You don't do work. Nobody in his right mind. I wouldn't even go out and look at anybody on the street with a straight face and say, I'm proceeding with a project. Oh, well, what's it gonna cost me? I have no idea, but you're gonna pay for it.
We have an idea, Ed. I'm not gonna stand here and throw a ballpark number off the top of my head. I would never.
Engineers do it all the
that.
time. I did it for 40
I-
years. You give a preliminary pre-bid estimate. All I'm saying is,
That-
and I'll
from-
even go with what
From
Doug
what
said.
Eric told you, it's probably gonna be another $200,000 or $300,000. It's
Okay.
probably gonna be around $500,000.
So let's break it down. So you've got site prep and then you've got
The court sports
Court
and the
sports.
playground.
and the playground.
Right.
And then you've
You
got the
add the-
trail.
When you add the sport courts and the playground, that brings it up to 1.2 million.
Say it again.
1.2 million.
1.2 million for phase 2A, including the playground,
No, we've already,
all in.
So budget wise,
Hold on.
you're talking
That's why I didn't
expenses,
wanna go off the
talking.
top of my head.
So the number I gave Eric was the number for the playground that you guys approved at the last board meeting, which is 120. So Eric, please confirm that you included that 120 number in that 1.2 million,
120 for what now?
the playground.
Yes, that's included. So what's not included in that is all the shelters and pavilions. We don't have costs for the shade structures yet. So that number's probably short, but that's what we have so far. So that'll probably be up.
Okay, that's getting back to what I am being asked. What are we talking about? So we're talking about 1.2 million. Now, what's our grant that we've got that offsets the cost just for this project?
So there's about approximately 350,000. That is the parks impact fees, community parks impact fees. You have some additional funding left over from the bond. You've already
I'm talking grant, not
Okay.
loan.
Then essentially you're looking at 350 for grants.
So we're looking at about $800,000 to $850,000 of what additional expense we're gonna pay to put the site work in and put these courts and put these pavilions and playground in. And we haven't gone to the people and give them any survey of what this is gonna cost as to whether they want this or not. That's ridiculous.
well, but here's the only issue that I have with,
It's ridiculous.
I'm all for getting feedback from the residents and doing a survey. But even the last survey we did that certain individuals keep referring back to, that was less than 8% of the total population, which is statistically insignificant. You can't use that data because it doesn't represent the community. It's going to be really hard to get,
Well, it was
to get
1,600
4,000 people in this community to
Doug, it was
populate a
16
survey.
I don't want to get an argument over
Yeah.
it, but it was 1,600 out of about 6,000. So that's a pretty good for a survey.
That was
It's
a
very
round
good number.
So, yeah, which is still under 10%. So.
But my point is, I would go, and I have no problem, we've gone to this point. I have no problem going to the point of getting the bids. We're heading that way anyway. But between now and then, I'd like to see a survey out, simple survey out, showing this map, showing these things and telling everybody, this is what it's going to cost you, $850,000 on the assumption the bids come in close to the estimate. And that cost to you is X. And Stephen can tell us that in a heartbeat.
And I'm only telling, I'm only
And it's
saying this,
real
and,
easy.
and again, I'm not arguing with you, but then we should also send a survey out saying who wants to continue to do park bank or the lake bank restoration and other things that we have going on.
One big difference.
I know
one
what you're
big
gonna say, that
difference.
we're legally
One
obligated
of
to
them
do
is
some of
you're
that stuff.
legally obligated
Yes,
to do it. The
but we
other
are
one
not
is
legally
illegal.
obligated to do it at the level that we have been doing.
But the thing is, we told the people that before we proceed with this project, we would have a survey out where we would tell them the price. And we made it perfectly clear, and we all stood together on this. We are not doing this to pass the decision of our vote on to the people. We vote for it.
We vote for it.
But by God, we can sure as hell survey them.
Now, I'm just gonna give you one more option.
And we got
I
plenty of
think
time to
most
do it.
people
Yeah.
aren't gonna care. Well, please, this is very loose, as I'm saying this. I don't think residents are gonna care that we're enhancing the community by building a park or an administrative building or lake bank restoration or irrigation, putting in lights. At the end of the day, what they're focused on is their assessment. How much is their assessment going up? So what we need to do is make decisions that is in the betterment for the community, for all the community, both infrastructure, improvements, all those things, and manage the assessment to a reasonable amount. We should be focusing on doing things holistically that improve the community and making sure that we're staying within the assessment.
That's
So
subjective though. That's subjective.
no, it's quantifiable.
In my community, which I represent the major percentage of this community, the whole district, this thing is dead on arrival.
But you're also in a community that has
All those things.
It's dead on arrival.
And well, look, so
But I would be willing.
here's- I don't want to argue about which
I'm trying to
community
meet
has
you- I'm trying to
what,
meet
but-
you halfway.
Yeah.
I'm willing to take the bids, get this out, but we know we've got at least, talking to the engineer earlier this afternoon, we're looking at least 120 days for this to know that we're even going to have something to award a contract on.
Well, and
Because
here's
of
what, again, what I'd say is we need to make sure and I completely understand this, like we got bonds, we got other things. It's going to be compounding increases in assessments over time. I mean, we've been very diligent for as long as I've been on this board, where we have tried to maintain single digit increases in the assessment. And we have done that for as long as I've been on the board. But it will increase over time. What we don't want to happen is to jump, 100%, or I mean, that's pretty aggressive, but we don't want these bonds and everything to keep compounding. So, the assessments get out of control. So we're going to have to make some decisions on what to
Well,
cut. And it might be, we're going to prioritize actual community enhancements, maybe over some other
I think
things.
we're saying the same thing. I want to is Stephen's still online, not Agape, Bloom.
No.
Okay, well, he can do it. If it takes him more than 1 hour to take what we asked, I'm sorry, Stephen
He's on hold.
Bloom,
It's not,
Yeah, you might not be.
he's not on.
Okay.
He's not.
I can.
it
can't-
won't
we
take
can't-
him 1 hour to take what we estimate is the $800,000 cost of this bonded 20 years, 10 years, whatever we're doing to finance it, and the operating cost to finance this, keeping in mind, nobody said anything about the security on this thing. I guarantee you, I want no part of spending the money on building this when it's wide open and we have no way to control who comes in to use it.
Ed.
That is insane. And that's more money to spend. So I'm going to go back. Go to Stephen and give to him what we believe to be the capital cost, the debt retirement of this and the O&M cost, and then have him put back to Chelsea a number that we go to our residents on a survey that this park, and let's don't make this complicated. We've got it as a package. Let's keep it as a package and tell them the capital cost of this and the O&M cost of this is going to take your assessment next year and increase it $10, $20, $50, $100.
But I don't think you can do, I mean, I know what you're saying and it's reasonable, but at the same time.
We've
you
had
can-
people
hold on,
come in
Ed,
here and
Ed,
they go
Ed,
berserk.
just let me talk.
Wait,
Let me finish for 1 second. But you can't tell someone that this improvement is going to increase your assessment by $20.
Why?
Because we're not telling them what their total assessment cost is going to be for next year. This might be 20, but we might be adding another 80 with other things that we're doing. And you can't make a decision on, are you willing to to spend $20
Some may
when
say
we're
I'd
also
rather-
gonna increase at 80? I think the decision comes in at when we get to budgeting
Budget.
time and we say, your assessment, are you comfortable with your assessment going up $100 next year with 10% of that being for park, 20% being for lake bank restoration, another 20% for.
What is wrong with giving that to them
But
right
it,
now?
but it,
You're giving
What
the
is
whole.
wrong, what's
think-
wrong with the transparency of,
It's
this is
not-
I don't
not,
mind, I
Ed.
don't mind sharing the I don't mind
not
sharing the
rocket science.
cost, and that's fine. But if we're asking people to decide whether or not
Give
they
them the whole
want,
information.
they want to spend, they're willing to spend $20, next year for park improvement without giving them the total assessment cost of what it's going to go up, it's not, it doesn't make sense
I
because you
don't
can't make a
speak-
decision.
But Doug, I don't want to hold this off that long. We don't have time for that.
So Ed, let me think of this. I was just crunching the numbers. So you said 1.2 or 1.3?
1.2.
Well,
Let me
you
jump in on that.
It's not gonna cost that.
No, just for what we have here. So 1.2, we have 350 with the grant. Then we do have, the residents already pay for it. The $200,000 for the dog park, the reallocation. We're not gonna use that.
That's it.
I know, but we can use that money how? And then and then honestly, the paddleball courts, it's around 200,000. I don't recall us ever agreeing to
Or
that.
it may not be a priority, right?
And just remove that. So that's $950,000. So half of that, 400,000, the residents already pay for it. So, we
How
have,
about the grade?
yeah, but the grant's 350 plus 400,000 that is already in operations for us to do some of the stuff now.
But they'll come back, watch out when saying that, because what they'll come back and say, we could use it on something that we support, not this.
But what? Then
But what?
Well, I don't know. Alls I know is.
But that's our
Well, then-
decision.
But
why not open the-
Our decision.
No,
Let's get the survey. Why is everybody so afraid of the survey?
No, it's not. I'm not afraid of survey. I think a survey needs to be done, but I'll be one. I mentioned this before. Water bill survey, like I don't want an electronic survey, and I'll tell you why, because there was a school that was going right next door to me, and I'll tell you, I probably voted 1,000 times for that.
A survey on stuff that's demanded and we have it as a requirement and is not elective. I wouldn't argue with you at all. This is majorly elective. A lot of people do not need this. If it comes back and it says that 50% of our people or a legitimate percentage want it, I'm not gonna stand in the way of it. But if it comes back, like I'm hearing it's gonna come back, and we do it, and it comes back 85, 90% saying don't do anything.
Yeah.
We gotta think twice.
So how about this? How about we have Doug, would you be comfortable coming up with a survey question?
I'll work with staff on the survey.
Sharing that with the board?
Yeah.
Okay, so then-
I'll work with staff on the
that-
survey and share it with the
Okay,
board,
yeah.
our decision.
That's meeting halfway.
Okay,
I
there you
want
go.
Steve- Here's what I want. I want Steve, because I want his neck on the limb of what this is gonna cost. I
Yeah.
don't want to tell the people
That's-
this is gonna cost $20, then it comes back 50.
No, that's fine. So Doug will work with with staff on the survey, and then the cost will come from them, and then
Let me see, I want to see the survey, but the thing is that.
Doug's gonna
again,
work with staff, and he's
again,
gonna bring it to us.
Yeah, but again, this is what stuff has happened that shouldn't have happened. We should have had a timeline. We now know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm talking to Steve and Eric this afternoon. This thing is 120 days away minimum from having a notice to proceed. Because you've got to get these permits to go start the construction on the LDO, the South Florida Water Management District,
Well-
which is not a problem.
What I
In
can
fact, we
what I
buy
can point
time.
out is we're weeks away from ready to go to permit, and
I'm sorry.
we're weeks away from ready to submit for permit. And
Okay, and he said,
getting it memorialized in a permit doesn't cost you anything.
he said 45 days to get the permit submitted. Or for them to review. 30 days for us to answer comments, another 45 days for them back. So that's 120 days. So 120
Well,
days.
once you submit, yes.
Yes, so 120 days that we've got that we can't do anything on this anyway.
No, sure
No.
you can. It's just permit process. And
So-
once
so
you get
the-
the permit, it allows you
So
to
you
build
can
it.
go out there and
And
start.
whether you decide
you
not to
can go
build
out
or
there
not
and start-
doesn't matter.
You can go out there and start digging.
Once you get a permit, you can, but you can't build
Okay.
without it.
But
Bill,
what do you-
what I'm trying to say is that we can't put a shovel in the ground for this component until we have those permits.
Yes, and you're saying 120 days, but he's saying not 120 days, so that's the problem. Tony has one.
Just
point.
real
Go
quick,
ahead.
to the extent that the survey gets sent to other board members, they cannot come back and say, these are my comments or edits on it, absent at a board meeting. Otherwise, you're doing stuff outside the sunshine.
staff
Yeah,
and,
but Flavia, I got my numbers from Stephen and Eric.
which is fine.
And 120, and I believe those numbers are pretty accurate.
But,
I
but,
really
but,
do.
but
I'm not
here we
arguing
are
that.
again on the same thing. I loved it that you got those numbers, but I was totally unaware of it. And it's kind of like the conversation that I just had with them,
I have same issue.
you know,
These
like
are
if they
things-
give it to you, no problem, recap it, give it to staff, staff will give it to us. So again, we're here 1 week later. Some of us have knowledge, some of us don't, and that's my frustration.
We're going in circles for one reason. We wanted to accelerate the park into the building. And the reason you would probably want to do that is because of the site work. These two have to fit together. They have
You
to
get a
fit
better
together.
economy of scale if you build them together.
If you're gonna go build this
Yeah.
and not fit it together, alls I can set back is watch the circus. unfold.
You
Bill,
brought that up earlier
you
in this
can't do-
conversation.
Bill, here's the question. So if we approve this master park plan, so we can proceed.
When,
with-
no,
with-
we're not, we're not.
let me-
don't land.
let me
It's a
finish.
question, let me finish.
It's not a plan.
If we can, to proceed with, what you're suggesting with, permitting or whatever. We can still make changes to, let's say, the courts. Let's say if we can take out paddleball courts because we need to cut some costs.
Right, and even if they're illustrated in the master plan and in the development order, it does not force you to build them.
Okay.
Okay.
And
It's a
so, and
change
what
order.
you were
It's a
asking
change order.
for, what you, that's-
You wouldn't need a change.
And what you're
or
asking for
Construction
is-
change order, correct?
in theory, is to approve the updated master park plan for the commons. That's what you're asking for today.
Yes, but
With the action to be, what is the action that will be taken upon that approved?
well, at your last meeting, you already approved as a board to move forward with the site work of it. So ultimately, we would be looking to move forward.
Right. And that site work is not going to cost you.
But site work only for 2A
Only for 2A.
Right.
in the parking lot. That's correct. That's all.
Correct.
And the
So-
admin buildings.
Yeah,
The admin building,
Who is
the,
it?
in the pink, Site work.
Admin buildings in the yellow.
no, and pink
Yes,
site work.
Eric
That's,
has a comment. Eric has a comment. Go ahead, Eric.
Eric?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the costs are clear. I threw out that 1.2 million. That did not include the trailhead, which would add another few $100,000. And I mentioned also that the shade structures were not included. Let's assume that those cost around 50 grand each. That brings you up to about 2.2 million. So I just want to make sure it's clear that that 1.2 is the cost that we have right now.
From 1.2 to 2.
Yeah, I mean, like.
Guys, this is what this is. It shows, demonstrates all. Left-hander doesn't know what the right hand knows. We need a
figured that.
complete, one person in charge, gives us a
The line
cost
item.
breakdown of this whole thing itemized, not in pieces, not that, oh, somebody else is handling this or somebody else handling that. I want one person, and that's you, Chelsea. You should be assembling all the costs from all the professionals for everything to be built on this that we're expected to pay for.
So I think,
Can I give it just a little insight on the whole master plan idea? It's an assembly and it's a illustration of ideas that you would have in building out this park. And to give you prices for the build out of that, the entire master plan, which I infer that you're saying on a master plan that's got a 10 or 15 year shelf life to it, wouldn't be a reasonable number because you're not going to build that all at once.
I understand.
Okay, I'm just saying that. So the only thing that I would understand that you're clearly looking for is what would be the cost for the things that are currently in motion.
That's correct.
And that's going to be about $1.2 million plus any ancillary improvements.
1.2 million, but okay, now I'm just gonna ask you a
I
question.
mean, it,
Does that include security?
And it does not, and that's where
Here we go again.
well,
Tell Chelsea, you realize how much it's gonna cost
I-
to
I-
build
But you
this
know
park?
what? But
fence it.
That's what I was gonna
I
say.
wouldn't fence it.
Oh, good Lord.
Not-
No, no,
not around the
No,
perimeter.
no, the Parks and Recs committee, I'll say this, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. They're looking at prices, but even the parks, when they were talking about it, they weren't sure if they're going, because of cost, if they're gonna do it, the fence, the perimeter, or if they're gonna do it just the individual. They had a lot of conversation. It was like an hour just on this topic around just of the courts for now. And then eventually do it. So they weren't sure. And then I think they asked staff to go out there and get numbers. And I think that's what you just
But
have.
Flavia, when you build this here, what's gonna keep, if I'm over here in Lehigh, I'm gonna be over here. This is the nicest thing
It's
there
over-
is.
I can give you some insight I have.
Do we really think that someone's it's lake on one side
Doug, they're gonna
FPL
drive
easement
right
on
on.
there. Someone's gonna walk down that
Can I-
FPL
Well, Doug,
easement.
they did it over at the fun park for years.
Can,
They
can-
did it.
Or you can drive up to.
And now we're making
It's- that's
something
not
up
apples to
fancy.
apples. It's not apples. to apples. So here's what I'd like to do. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the updated master park plan for the commons.
Now, wait a minute, phase 2A and 2A or the whole master plan?
No,
He said master plan. He
Master,
didn't say
master
phase.
park plan
Whereas I will not vote for the whole master plan. I can tell you that right now.
with phase 2A
and I don't know if that's what you want, but I'm gonna get you the page.
Okay, go ahead.
phase 2A,
Okay.
which includes
Oh, it does it. It does-
playground courts and parking.
Trailhead.
And what?
There's no parking
There's no
though.
parking.
There's no parking. in
Includes
2A.
site work for those,
Oh, TV.
And 2B
but it's site work only for those.
for, yeah.
Well, now you just took 1.2 million and took it up even more.
From what?
He's adding 2B back in now.
Well, if you build it, you're gonna have a little more cost for that, correct? Again, when when you pointed out, if you approve the master plan, you're not approving the cost of anything other than the idea.
Similar to the
And we
bond.
have always,
It doesn't cost you anything to
we,
approve a
I
master.
as
agree
we've
with
been
that,
pretty
but
It's
unanimous.
just an idea.
I
in-
agree with you,
in
but
the plan.
we're proposing to develop a part of that
That's
master plan.
separate from the master plan.
Yes.
So
So-
I'm making a motion to approve the plan, which includes phase 2A and 2B. Doesn't mean we'll build it out, but we're approving the plan so we can continue to proceed while we're looking at,
But you're proposing to bid it.
Don't we need don't we need a
Because,
cost?
I mean,
Yeah.
Doug, right now, 2B is not in this. As you heard earlier, that was the half-ass solution. If you add 2B, which I'm not gonna argue with you that I wouldn't, because I somewhat agree with you, you're gonna walk a long way, but it's just gonna be more money.
Yeah.
What's the cost if you add 2B with 2A and with the 2A playground? What's the
Well,
total?
and I
cost?
think that's what we need to get to. Let's figure out what the actual cost is. Let's continue to proceed because we've said all along, we've been unanimous that building out this commons area is something that we would like to do. And it's going to come to a point to whether it's feedback from residents, whatever, like how much do we feel comfortable investing in this park? It might be $1.5 million, it might be 500,000, it may be whatever, and we'll build whatever we can with that.
Well, the one thing
is
is
reasonable.
where we're headed right now, this is the key to understand. We have taken the step to take this to bid. We've taken that step. If you're going to take the step to take it to bid, you want to take the step to take it to permit. Then you can make a decision whether you're going to go with it or not. I agree with that right now. I'm not arguing
You
that.
take it to permit before.
I'm
you
not
take
saying
it to
stop
bid.
I understand. I'm not saying stop the train. I'm saying while we're running the train down this track, let's pick up the
I
data a
think we're on the
survey
same
would give.
page.
Right, and I'm fine with that.
I
So
think, Ed, in that respect, I think we're all on the same page.
So before
We
you,
But
haven't
once-
been because we haven't ever
But
talked
the
to
thing
survey
is,
before.
once you get the permit that approves everything that Doug would say you're putting in a
Yeah, but
motion, it
Bill,
still
the
doesn't
problem
cost
is-
you anything until you actually build
The
it.
problem is that we got time working against us. We want to take this building and we want to take this park and we want to blend these things together. Right now, it's looking like that on or about 120 days from now, or somewhere around the middle of, or into September, we should be able to be shovel ready for site work of these two structures. In the interim, we can be collecting the data of a survey, getting that information. It doesn't impact any of this stuff that we got to do because we got to do it anyway. Go out to the people and get the feedback back.
We can-
Chelsea,
It's
I
not
think
that
that's
difficult.
what we
voted that.
anticipated.
We agree that
I
we're
think
gonna
that's
do
what we've
Yeah,
anticipated.
that's
So,
what
so we agreed that.
I think that's
we're
what
doing.
we've completely anticipated.
Okay,
Yeah.
if we get the survey and we put that out and get that out concurrent with this, I have no reason. I think the only thing that's up
I
in
don't
the air.
I think that's a surprise or a
Okay,
shock
so
to
we
me
have
at
a,
all to
so,
hear
okay,
that.
so we have a motion from
We've
Doug.
never talked to survey until about half an hour ago. We've never talked to survey. None. Don't look at me like that. We have not talked about a survey. Has anybody prepared a survey? Silence. is
what do you
deafening.
mean, what do you mean prepared service?
Everybody acts like we were gonna do a survey. I haven't heard anybody say anything about survey. It came up a survey today. Show me a survey. Somebody show me a survey. You got a survey?
the one
You
that
have a
we-
draft of a survey that shows people what it's gonna cost?
No.
That's,
don't have
that's
the-
my
we don't
point.
have the numbers.
We've never talked about it. Okay, so let's go on ahead. Let's take the project down. The only thing though is up in the air, guys, that we need to do have consensus on, which I'm probably going to agree with you on this one, is that if you're going to be doing that road coming in, I would hate to come back and do it later for two reasons. One, it's going to be a mess, but more importantly, is somebody's going to get there and look at this map. You want me to walk that far?
Yeah,
I mean, it's just.
and I'm
if
even
we're gonna
saying that,
do it
I'm
right.
even saying that 2B might need to be
I put
tweaked
2B in there. and be
slightly, so
done.
maybe it's not, anyway. So
But that other
what is
component,
your last comment? So I can finish
Please.
my
I
motion.
wouldn't
so we
put
can-
that other piece though
So-
of 2B. I wouldn't put that bubble in there.
So as of
Just
right
put the
now,
one.
as of right now, there's not perimeter fencing around this entire site. Okay, there's a vehicular gate, and what I need from you all is direction on it, because we need to get the numbers, we need to get the cost. If you want pretty aesthetic wall on the Gateway Boulevard side and metal fencing along the other two sides. But I need your direction on that. Or do we not fence any of it and just have a vehicular control out by Gateway Boulevard?
I don't think, I mean, we can argue whether or not we want to do it or not, but I don't think if we're going to get pricing, we should probably get pricing. And then we'll figure out what we can afford and what we're going to prioritize.
The practical approach in this would be you control your parking with the gate structure. That takes the vehicular access out, and that's a significant amount of your
Yeah.
vandalism is with people
And
that can
what they'll
drive
do
in.
is they'll park across the street at the church and walk over.
The secondary part of that is that all
What
of
they're
your
gonna do.
sport court facilities are fenced and gated. So they can't get into those facilities. So you're gonna have
So
some vagrancy.
You
in your
might
park.
even have to,
Excuse me.
instead of putting in the fencing, limited fencing like you're talking,
Around-
you might go with cameras.
That
You can
too.
go with security cameras.
Yeah.
I mean,
But-
taking the school board approach and just putting a big old fence around your park, that's not an ideal way to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
See how they're jumping right next door to me? That's all they do.
So ultimately, that was the one thing that I could not have, I have no direction on.
Well, and that needs to be discussed. It's not a big ticket item, but it is a
It-
ticket item.
It's a big ticket depending on
If
what
you
you
choose-
We need
choose.
fencing
put
options,
fencing.
so I'll include,
Okay.
I'll include that. So, and I think you said that
You're looking
to
at
not
about
include
$200,000 for fencing.
phase 2B, but I think you need to include phase 2B so we understand the cost. Again,
Well, and I guess just clarification, if we're going, the board approves phase 2B, are you going to approve amending the bid documents that are out there to include 2B also to be bid on?
Well, that was the question I wanted
that's-
really to get out of Bill. Do the bid documents right now?
No.
Have
No.
them? Okay.
They have phase-
So 2B is.
2B is
there.
not in the current bid package,
Okay.
correct?
so here's my.
That makes it comfortable.
Cough loud if you're gonna be away
Okay,
from
so
tonight.
be over here. So I'm looking at what's showing on the screen. Honestly.
We can't see, but
When you talk about 2B.
Yeah, would you turn it? Because I can't. see.
Oh,
That is 2B, which we're,
so this.
well,
is-
just hold it, Doug. Hold it, Doug. Have them just put
Yeah, go to.
put
Yeah.
it, put 2B on there.
go the one that shows the boat.
There you
So.
go.
All right, so my issue is we don't need this. What we need is this.
But you got to get there.
What I'm saying is 2B to me is it's augmented in part of 2A. It's a strip, at least right here, or something.
It's difficult to do it that way based on the way the master plan's built, because you want to have your parking to be able to, you don't want to create
No,
deadhead
no,
parking.
the thing is, maybe it's just this and it's not all of this.
Well,
But you look
remember,
through
that's
here and
it-
you circle around.
That's existing, Doug. Half of the bottom portion, no, the other side, down,
Yeah,
down.
from the pull down is existing.
Down.
This-
No, down,
No.
Further
down.
down.
From the
down.
pull
Yeah,
down is
all that is
existing.
already in
So
place.
really, you're only
But I'm saying,
2/3.
is there a way to simplify this? Because all we need is just access here. You're just, people that have been playing pickleball.
Oh, I see what he's saying.
Well, he's just saying, come up here
It's
at
just
this
gonna be-
end and
it's a
make it that out
little-
and.
It is, it is.
Which I'm fine with
We can
that,
just
too.
tweak it here, so we can provide, you're not gonna have, I mean, we only have X amount of courts, so you only need 20 parking spaces for full capacity here.
I don't know.
12
Keep
courts you
going.
need, about 20 just for the pickleball.
And I'm just saying that.
Just for the
I wanna see-
pickleball. Well, then you got the basketball component, you got the bocce
Yeah,
component.
but you're not gonna make-
And whether if you don't build those, then you don't have the
Some
demand.
people can walk further than that.
Correct, especially
So
if you're playing
we, as a
basketball.
Community, we need to make sure we've got parking for people that need to be closer to these amenities.
So maybe it is just the north part you build that.
Yeah, it's just
But
a
I'm just
component.
explaining it to you guys, the way we conceived this master plan was that
The point.
the outer ring
I'm
would
not
only be
I'm not an
necessary. if
engineer and
you-
I can't tell you what you need. All I'm saying is if you don't include some additional parking closer to the courts,
I agree.
it's not gonna be that desirable.
Well, that pink that's on there right now, that's identified as 2B, the easy solution is just add that to the design, get it out as an addendum on both the
And then
LDO,
we'll figure it out.
and then we figure it
Yeah,
out.
okay, I agree. So we will, my motion is to approve the
Do
master,
it right.
move
We
the
can get
master
it
plan
memorialized and permit.
with phase 2 and 2B. In addition, looking at fencing options as a part of this plan.
And also direct staff to issue and engineers to issue an addendum to include
To be.
2B in the bids.
We gotta get the plans first.
Yeah, okay.
No, but it's out there on the street already.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
The bid documents are already.
You'll
out
see,
there
now
on the street.
but now, guys, this is a multiple phase issue here. We haven't got to the real issue yet. We gotta.
Oh, there's a motion on the floor. We'll
Okay,
complete
okay.
that.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Before
Okay,
you take a vote on that motion, I think you need to clarify, is that gonna be part of alternate number 1, which is phase 2A?
Yes.
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 So there will be no.
Just what, Eric, what you're looking at on this slide as pink
It'll be a one phase.
is just,
Phase 2.
is in the first phase that we're bidding.
Yeah, this is all, would be all included phase 2.
Okay, now,
For now.
now we're talking about bidding and what Tony brought up.
We got-
Hold
Hold on, let's motion, we got a
So
second.
we got a motion and a second from Ed. All in favor, let's call to vote.
Aye.
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 Okay,
5-0.
now, the next one we got is we got to figure this timeline. When you're writing engineering contract documents and legal documents, especially on something like this, to where we've brought this together at basically a late stage. We can hold these bids for 90 days, guys. If you can't start the construction and award a contract for 120 days, why are you rushing to get a bid that's no good? We need a definitive answer from Bill, you and Eric as our consultants, that best guess, when can we award a contract? And then we go back 90 days from that. And that's when we can open the bids.
Can I make a suggestion?
So we, go
Since you-
ahead.
Since you just changed that, we need to give them the opportunity to include that into the bid docs. So I would rather come back to you, work with both of them. I don't know how long it's gonna take them to come up with the bid set for phase 2B.
Well, your problem with that though is you're out for bid right now.
Yeah.
We were gonna open bids here very shortly.
Yeah, once.
I don't think you want to do that to the bidders. I think what I would do is give the bidders a date as our best guess of what guess is the new bid opening date, and let them know that an addendum is coming
Coming, okay.
and do it that way.
All right, so that's the direction that we're giving then Tetra Tech. Okay.
So that
Okay,
means,
so that-
Yeah,
Eric,
Staff.
Are
Yep.
you
Do
clear
you have
on?
any questions? Don't be calling Ed. No kidding.
I'm very clear on that.
nobody calls me, I call them. It's-
Block that
Yeah.
number.
But the thing is, again, this isn't that difficult, guys, is if the numbers we said is 120 days, which gets us out there, then we can work backwards. We're probably looking at delaying or deferring the bid opening to somewhere around maybe the middle of July.
And Stephen Bloom, I think it's going to be important to, I mean, ultimately, what it's going to come down to is what are we comfortable going to our residents and having them fund from an assessment perspective. So I think we just need to be aware if it's 1.5 million, it's this amount. If it's 1 million, if it's 850,
down.
it's 500, like, what is that? Because we did that with a bond. So that's what we need to be thinking about is what is the impact to assessment if we have, let's say, 3 tiers at cost? Because we're gonna have to back into a cost, let's be honest. And we can do that because we can do that by cutting some things. We'll have to reprioritize. I mean, I wish we had the money to just build it all out because I think this community would really benefit from having a nice central commons park area.
Well, keep in mind
but-
on our new assessment methodology, guys, now, this is not as difficult as it used to be. Our assessment methodology takes down and makes parks essentially one user class paying for it, residents only.
Yeah.
So we got 5,000 residents and this comes out to be $1 million. It doesn't take very difficult.
Right, that's
It's
but that's
two-
what we need to know. Because if you need to
That-
go back
that's
to
easy
your
to do.
folks
And
who
Stephen
aren't
can
on the
do that.
fence, say, look, it's gonna cost you $20 a year in order to enhance this community as a whole. Or if
what
it's
we-
more than that, they're like, I'm just not willing to do that.
So we will work on those numbers, including operating numbers, anticipated operating numbers, and try to work with Stephen Bloom, and you and I can work together on that survey.
On the survey.
And then bring it back in front of the board for consideration.
And if there's,
We can have
here's what
that-
I would say to the board.
Let's have that survey ready to go at the next meeting.
Yeah, we can do that.
We'll do
And I
that.
would say, as board members, if there are any specific areas, items, questions that you would like, send them to Chelsea and then we'll have discussions on it. Because I don't want to put something together and
Well,
you come back and say, why didn't we have this question?
Well, the problem we're having is that right now is we got way too many chefs on this, in cooking this pot here. She's got to be the one, because she's controlling some of the costs that are not being done by our consultants, which would be the various vendors. So you got to be the source of where all these prices come back in, so that we have Stephen Bloom
Yep.
have what the total cost is.
Tony, we'll be able to give feedback to Chelsea and she can compile. She's not gonna say like, this is from board member A, B, and C. Like, if I have any questions that I wanted to add, or Bob or Carol, we just pass them on to,
On the survey, you mean?
yeah, we pass it on to Chelsea, and then when Chelsea's meeting with Doug, if the questions are included with his, then she won't bring it up. If not, we can add it.
There's no, she's not going to tell me where the
Yeah,
impact's coming. These are things like we need to consider as we put the survey together. Cost for items. We need to make sure that it, does certain things.
I'm not so wild about that.
I would not, I would not.
Well, then how would you
complicate
build a
the
survey without anyone's input?
Well, no, you prepare the survey.
I don't have anything. I'm
They,
gonna
then they
give
can come to
you
the
and
board
staff
meeting, next board
make
meeting
the
for
survey.
comments. Or some-
Prices
They
Monday.
have all on the agenda packet. I mean,
We'll
that's
do,
the way to
here,
do
we'll
it.
do this. You and I will work together. We'll try to get a draft in front of them at the May 2nd meeting, and then at the May 16th meeting, we'll get everybody's blessing,
Okay.
and then we'll push it out as soon as we possibly can. We can queue it up. And you can tell me how you want to solicit it, if it's through the water bill or if it's through some other form.
Or maybe we do them both ways. So
Yeah.
I mean.
Okay, one of the, who's in charge of this design to incorporate 2B?
That
You
would
guys
be-
doing this, or that Eric?
That's Rick Berlansky in our office.
Okay, it's your office.
Yes.
Okay. Again, I bring up the issue. I know you answered my question, but I'm looking at this and I've done one or two of these. I'm worried about a swale going through here. And if we're going to do it by piping, you're not going to hurt my feelings, because I would have liked to see the piping in the first place.
Well, as in LA, I like to
But
see a lot
I
of.
think with that
piping because it
layout
doesn't
you now
interference-
have, you're going to end up
interference
putting in piping, which just adds to the cost, but
Ed, I
I
can
don't
assure
want to see
you,
a swale down the middle of that road.
but I can assure you, Ed, you will see that in detail as part of the working draft.
Eric, are you
Yes.
clear on direction?
I am somewhat clear as mud.
Okay.
Well, Eric, you
Let
and I
me-
will talk in great detail.
Let me just understand. So right now, the advertised bid schedule says we're gonna respond to all questions by next Tuesday. So by next Tuesday, we need to issue another addendum.
Yes.
That addendum is going to extend the bid date indefinitely, or you're asking us to pick a date based
need to
on.
pick
what
a
we
date.
have to-
We need to pick.
You
the
need to
date
pick a date.
To be in concert
Pick a
with the
state
DO.
date that when you open these bids, you can award the contracts in 90 days.
Yes, that the DO will be nearly secured.
Okay.
That makes
All
a
right.
ton of sense.
Anything else, Eric?
No.
All right. All right.
Monthly report.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Bill.
you,
Thanks,
guys.
Bill.
How much
Thank
I
you.
appreciate the clear
Thank you.
articulation that this board gives. I really do appreciate it.
So we just have a couple monthly reports. First, I'll turn it over to Laura for admin.
Any questions?
I don't have any.
I do have one thing for admin. I did get notice from Eric Colling with FPL this week that, they've received some of the permits for the, FPL streetlight conversion project, and that they are gonna start, their contractor is gonna start boring at the end of May, 1st of June. They're gonna start on Griffin, because with the schools being out, trying to time that with summer, and get, the boring done. So they said it's gonna be approximately a 10-month project, with,
For just Griffin Drive?
no, like the whole
The
thing,
whole thing.
the whole thing.
Well, when you say whole thing, you're not talking about in Gateway Greens.
I believe so.
I thought they said they couldn't get to that this year. It had to be next year.
I will,
Because
I'll
if I recall, it was everything.
I'm tickled if they can, but
and I'll
that's.
follow up with Eric and get back with you directly. The I'll turn it over to Daniel next. I do have a couple items that I'll mention during their reports. Public Works. Bob's gonna be ecstatic. We got a Pelican. Well, we're sharing.
I know.
Time in Pelican, but yes.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Daniel?
Yeah, this stormwater project we got going, bidding out for bid. Question. Have we put out an addendum that we're now changing that again, that instead of a 5-year contract, it's a 3-year contract only?
It's always been a 3-year with 2 1-year renewals.
Correct.
Okay, are all the phases going to be done in the first 3 years?
No.
Yeah.
No.
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 No, it's going
They
to.
want that away.
Chelsea.
That's what I've been asking.
Yes.
The way I understand it now is that Basin 1 and Basin 2 and Basin 3 are going to be done in the first year.
Correct.
And then the second and third year is 5 and 4 or 4 and 5, whichever.
No, it'll be, we're wrapping up 4 right now.
That's what I was going to say.
So it'll be 5. We proved the fact that if you have the capacity as a contractor, you can get Basin 5 done all on its own. It's the largest basin out of all of them, which we already knocked out in previous years. We're wrapping up Basin 4 right now. We're able to do that within a year, and 1, 2, and 3 are your smaller basins.
We've gone, sad to even say it. We've gone 30 years and not having done nothing. Why are we turning around Basin 4 and 3? That doesn't make, why do we want to do it so fast? Why are we're doing Basin 4 right now. Why do we want, when we haven't done it for 30 years, why do we want to do it now in 3 years to repeat it? Why are we spending that money?
Let me go back and look at the addendums.
Okay, well, there's more to come.
I'm hesitant on talking about it because we're all under the cone of silence right now because it is an active bid.
That doesn't have anything to do with this in a board meeting.
Okay.
Gee, but
It's different than having communication with board members.
Okay.
Here-
I don't want there to be misinformation goes out and then the bidders.
Here's
No,
the
the only official document that bidders can rely upon are the bid documents and any addendums.
Okay.
Okay, so my question is that this is a lot of money. What is our estimate of the cost to do this project that we're bidding? And to take either add 4 or throw 4 out. To me, I would not count 4 because it's duplicated, but what is our estimate? And more importantly is how much money do we have to do this work? I'm looking at this as being maybe $2-3 million work. We got a bid schedule, so we can do a pre-bid estimate. What's the pre-bid estimate say that this thing's going to cost?
Top of my head right now.
My head,
I mean, ballpark.
I'd have to go back. and
roughly
look.
$1 million in the larger basin. So if you broke it out over 3, you're looking at 3 year broken up 1 mil each year.
Well, you see where I'm going.
Yeah.
My question is, if we got $1.7 million, as I understand this, what we've got in the budget, with my reading our budget, we got $1.7 million and we got $3 or $4 million worth of work. How are we going to word that contract?
That's why I have to go back and read the addendums and because.
Well, I just want to make sure that we're doing stuff. And I've said to you before, I'm very concerned that we're putting this together without professional or legal assistance. We're getting out on a limb.
And I would love for.
Way out on a limb.
Every RFP that we put together.
Then do it.
But do it.
Okay, all right. Well, that's how we'll proceed.
You want direction from the board?
When you're
That's
doing.
one last thing for you to do, and then that's what.
When
That'll
you're
save
doing,
enough
main-
time.
when
Yeah,
you're doing, when you're doing mainscaping stuff and that type of stuff that is not necessary professional engineer work, you don't need a professional engineer. This is engineering work,
Well,
and it's also legal.
landscape
It's also
architect
legal.
is.
It's also legal.
Hey,
So you-
but
so
my
if you
point-
wanna do that, for engineer and legal to take a look at it, or do it?
I would think I wouldn't even have to make that motion. That's common sense.
Okay.
We should be going to our attorney
Okay,
and
let's
having
fix it.
checked.
Let's fix it now.
Yes.
So, yes, okay.
Yes, I will
Want me
do that.
to
I'll make that
motion?
motion.
You make that motion, I'll second that motion. You know what the motion is?
Uh,
Instead of staff, go ahead and doing the.
Tetra Tech can write.
Tetra Tech and Tony work together.
Those projects
Any
that require.
any RFI or RFP that goes out that has legal, engineering requirements, it has to go through our
they'll write them.
engineering and legal review.
Yeah, it's not gonna be done by staff.
It's not always gonna be done by Tetra Tech because we have Arcata.
I'd agree with that. I agree with that.
That's fine.
I'd agree with that.
Let's just say engineering review.
Okay.
And
But sometimes engineers will need to prepare documents.
The reason I'm bringing all this up is that I
Wait a minute,
don't want to see us
Okay,
get.
so we have a
get-
motion,
okay,
any
sorry.
second, I'm called to vote, all in favor?
Aye.
There you go, Chelsea.
Okay, now,
Okay.
the thing I'm trying to do is make sure that we know where we're going. If we've only got X dollars, why are we bidding 2X?
well, and
That's going to get us in trouble with bonding companies and everybody else with these people that are bidding jobs. If I'm a bonding company and I'm coming in here and I find out that you got 1.7 million, my contractor has got a $3 million bid, I'm gonna sit there and say, wait here. Are you telling me that this isn't going to be a terminated contract? In other words, somebody gonna come in and stop it midstream?
well,
Because if you look at your documents, it gives you the provision to
I'll
do
go back
that.
and look.
You're gonna go back.
Because I know that we've issued one or two addendums and there's one pending. We had to extend the bid because we missed some questions. So that's happening. My apologies.
I'm not so worried about that. I'm worried about the big picture and money.
I believe we addressed that in one of the addendums, but no board can bind future boards. So I will touch base with you, Ed. I'll follow back up with you.
and I would say too, as we're going through this, because we've got a lot on our plate. We want to try to do as much as we can.
Well,
So,
what they're doing, we need.
yeah, no,
We need to do it.
but what I'm saying is if it does make sense for us to spread things out over a 2 or 3 year, because that's what's going to ultimately end up happening. Let's just be big.
We're not asking for any additional work. I can promise. you.
Okay.
The timeline, Doug, on this, the 3 year and the timeline on basins 1, 2, and 3,
Yeah.
basins 1 and 2 are nothing.
Yeah, there's
It's just a couple of pipes.
couple of pipes, couple culverts.
3 is where
Large
the
scale
meat and
pump.
potatoes is at. And 5, I thought we did a couple of years ago.
You did.
We did.
You did.
And 4, we're doing right now. So worst case scenario is if we do have a money issue, at least get 1, 2, and 3. And I even believe that 3, which is largely Stony Brook, has already been done.
Mm,
That was what I thought. We've done that.
I have to follow up
Okay,
with that.
check. But anyway, even if it doesn't, just looking at the quantities you got, 1, 2, and 3 appear to, by using just numbers we've had passed previously, it looks like we could be in the neighborhood of the 2 million and skirt right by it. But you throw 4 and 5 back in it, and I don't see any way in the world. So my question is, why would you bid and collect data that award a contract that you can't fulfill because you haven't got the money?
Right. I will follow back up with you
Okay,
next week.
Can I
if
ask
you
a
don't mind.
question?
Yep. Bob's on us.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, when the Pelican experience was, all the money was spent the first time we did it. Okay, it took a lot of money. It took a lot of money. The repeats, the recycles, negligible. The cost. So when you're looking at redoing 1, 2, and 3, you're not going to be spending very much money at all.
Bob, 3 hadn't been done.
Well, I thought I heard that one.
Well,
I
I
thought
thought
I
I
heard
heard
that once
that
we were
yeah,
done and
yeah.
we're talking about.
I think you're saying what you do at once,
It's lesser cost.
it's minimal moving forward for
But
ongoing.
that's
maintenance.
exactly
Oh,
right.
that's
Once
what-
it's done, it's not repeat expense to any order of magnitude. Maybe it's 10% or 15 at max. If you do it on a regular basis.
That's
So
a
yeah,
swan
once it's
song,
done 30
Bob.
years,
If
you
we
gotta put a lot
had
of
been
money to
doing
get it
things
done.
on a regular
Money to get it
Yeah,
done.
we wouldn't. make
basis, we wouldn't be
Second.
spending the money that we are
And,
now on a lot of
and the other
things.
one too,
Yeah.
the other big one that we've had and we've learned the hard way. Also takes is one Ian hurricane to all bets are off. Because you're gonna fill your pipes up. You gotta come back and do it again.
I
But
don't agree with that at all.
notwithstanding.
I don't agree with that at all.
We, like Bob said, we can buy time.
Yeah, but
I
that
just don't
has,
want us to spend money. we
Ian
don't
did
want to
not
spend.
have an impact on us in Pelican. If you keep your catch basins clean,
don't
once
know.
you got it clean, the pipes don't ever get dirty.
You remember 70 over, yeah, you and I know because we walked it and we saw it.
Because our catch basins were already full. They just got
Before the
fuller.
hurricane.
Anything else for,
Anything else for Daniel?
thanks, appreciate it.
Thought you had a question.
Okay,
Bill? All right. Anything for Bill for utilities?
I don't have any.
I do want to call out at the end of this report, you will see a draft letter that we anticipate on sending out to those impacted by the pilot project. And so ultimately, I just want you to review, and if you have any feedback, please let us know, but we want to try to get that out here in the next couple of weeks.
It looked very
we-
good.
For the utility building, how much site work? Is,
For this one right here?
yeah,
Not much.
not much.
You mean back here?
No.
Or
okay,
here.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's just a little bit of leveling and compacting
And then some
Yeah.
lines.
for slab.
Anything for Mr. Shaw?
Did you hear when we had earlier discussion about the guys out there on the street? And
Yes.
maybe with the new meters having a tap
Got a note.
for pressure taps for both the irrigation and every meter? So
I'll,
we can isolate.
Yeah, I didn't catch the whole thing.
I didn't know if you heard it.
I was dealing with something else,
I'll
but
fill you in.
okay.
Um,
And then kudos to staff on repairing the item that you mentioned.
Yeah, thank you.
You said trench.
Oh, the trench, yeah.
So,
Trench
um,
box look.
one
Yeah,
last thing
good
for
job.
utilities, we are going back and forth with SRF. They're reviewing the actual RFP itself. We have to make some tweaks. We're hoping to get that turned back around to them in the next week or so. My question is, would you like for me, once we get that, to send that to you all for your review and any feedback prior to it actually going out on the street, once we get SRF approval?
What are you looking at? Just a
The-
synopsis of what?
The
what
RFP
you found?
itself.
The RFP itself.
Probably won't hurt to send it out.
Yeah, it's
All
not
right.
that big of a deal.
Just be very clear on when you want feedback, so we don't hold you up.
Yeah, that is a very time sensitive project. So
Going back to that same issue, so when we have things like all of this that we just went through in the last hour and a half, if we can't talk to each other because he's just causing trouble over there. Other than that, how can if I want to make sure that the others know what I am thinking on this, I send it to you, then you send it out to them? Or bringing up an issue?
Well, but we also,
They do not respond to this email.
but we
Yeah,
have,
but you
we
can't
have,
do that.
we have some controls baked in on this. That's why we have workshops. We can, if there's an item, we can chisel out 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes to have some open conversation on these larger items that we need to be able to have conversation. Now, if it's just a one-off and you need to send something that goes through Chelsea, that's fine. But, you know, we're all plugged into certain things. If you see, hey, we need to make sure we're on the same page on these items, especially bigger projects and initiatives, we need to have open communication.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we
that's
need to be disciplined that we can
that's
have
the way
good, solid quality of conversation in 15, 30 minutes. And that we're not just talking for an hour and we're not getting to what, so it has to be controlled and disciplined.
He was looking at you, just in case you didn't see it.
I'm sorry.
He was looking at you when he said that.
No, I was just looking in this general direction.
He was looking at me most of the time.
Both of us. We talked too much.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Public sees it, and the board can discuss.
I'll get better.
Tell Tony to turn on his mic.
Oh,
Okay,
Sorry.
that's good.
All right. Moving on.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
thanks,
Thanks,
Bill.
Bill.
Hey, Tony.
Yes, the first
Did I
one.
miss anything? No,
Let me go to the deeds of the district. We have an updated spreadsheet from WCI. We're comparing that to the last spreadsheet we gave them as far as the parcels to make sure they match. So I'd like to hopefully have a report back. I will have a report back to you at the May 2nd meeting as to which parcels are ready to be taken. So we can wrap those up. Lee Health property, I've heard nothing more, so. Administration building, I reviewed some of the bid documents, consulted on procurement matters, and I will work with Chelsea and Tetra Tech and Home Montez and their new name, because they got acquired.
Bowman.
No, I mean, not Home Montez, Green Minor got acquired.
Oh, they did too?
Yeah.
Not by the same company.
No,
Okay.
but it's like, there's 3 big engineering firms went down. The infrastructure easements and ownership identification and Pelican Reserve is the 2 last pieces were tree line, and I'm comfortable, and I have drafted the easement document on that. And Will Cronin has worked on the exhibit, and I'm comfortable with what he has prepared. And we'll get that to Bob. And as to Rita, there's a couple segments there near Prado and Cypress Grove that Will Cronin from Passarella is wrapping up the descriptions or the exhibits. And I just sent some clarifying information today because part of the area that is proposed to be an easement is part of a tract of land in a lake. The district is going to be deeded by WCI. It's part of the whole conveyance package. The FPL consent to use, we have, Chelsea was able to get the numbers, Tetra Tech as to, the cost of the irrigation system. And we were able to give that to the insurance company. And Chelsea, we're still waiting a quote back from the insurance
We
company.
just got it. Just got it.
Oh, okay, so then we can give that to FPL. FPL was agreeable to change the notification time frame for if we have to move the lines to 90 days versus their 30. And then this is the last piece. Hopefully we can wrap this up real quickly with FPL. And Genope, I have the comments back from the contractor, and my plan is to get those to Chelsea next week. The tree line and colonial sign parcels, again, that's just Milner contract copy machines. There's an agenda item on that. And it's a two-part matter.
Missing a dollar amount. I saw that.
Well, there's a letter in there that's saying that's how this, if we pay them under $200 for one copier, they will call that one closed, but they didn't address the shipping issue. So we're trying to get clarification on that. Meanwhile, the other copy machine is still with another entity, and they're saying you have to pay us everything. So I'm trying to work through those guys on that, and it's like $3,000. So it's split. I know it's becoming more. I understand. I'm gonna put on one of those car carriers and send it up to them one of these days. The board policies and procedures manuals, I made additional comments, sent them back to Chelsea. She has sent them back to me, and so I'd like to get that before the board, probably the second meeting in May for discussion. I'll change that. Archive documents, it's ongoing. Road, streets, dissolved POAs, we already had that meeting, and we don't know what they're gonna come back with. It was less than encouraging, I'd say, as to the Fairway Lakes Office Park people wanting to be involved or interested in reinstated. That
And I
was,
think that's on me. I have to, Chelsea and I talked about it, because Gene Rogers is gonna take over and contact the rest of them and kind of be like
Okay.
the head of.
How did that go?
stuff.
How did that meeting go?
it was
Yeah,
a good,
it was good. We only had
Six people.
Six
6 out of 15.
one of them was a couple, I think.
Yeah, but no, they're both listed. I did see it on, because Chantis sent me the spreadsheet. And then, so Gene Rogers actually, took upon himself, well, he asked the ones that were here, that if he could represent them, meaning like he's gonna be the one going pretty much door to door, talking to them.
Fire chief.
Fire chief, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's gonna help them and guide them, and then come back to us, because he was trying to explain the same line as
So
what.
he's taking the lead.
Yeah, so he's taking the lead. So at
Right.
least we have one person.
Were the Buells there that own Skinny Dollar?
Yes.
We even offered it through a Teams link in case somebody couldn't
Yeah,
come
but
in
they did
person.
not. It
We only
was-
had two people, one or.
I should have followed up.
Yeah, and Mr. Tuttle clarified that what was in the motion filed by the attorney was not what he said. So that's not a reflection of what his response was to
So
the
I'm gonna
attorney.
reach out to him. So he can, cause he's the president, I guess, for that. For the management association, so he can give Gene the contact, the names and stuff in a list, and then Gene can just go and do it.
Oh, that's good progress. That's what we've had so far. It might take a little time, but.
When one incentive has got to be $200,000.
Yeah, because what'll happen, it's at a certain point in time, the clerk will send it up to the Department of Financial Services, and that. When they hold on to money for unclaimed
People
funds.
got to do something. I mean, it's falling apart over there.
And as an aside, I am working with, Ed and I met with, Francis Iannucci with the Daniels Preserve. So we're kind of working that in the background. I did talk to Cecil about, them taking over that roadway since it connects both sides, and, I just have to follow back up with Francis.
That only makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Pelican Reserve, the district funds, that's still in progress. Like Chelsea mentioned, we're going to reconvene. I can't recall the exact date with the Pelican Reserve people.
May,
And then-
mid-May.
Have we heard anything from the AG on the?
No, they have it, they've acknowledged it, and they couldn't tell us who it was assigned to, but we'll follow up with that again.
Okay, we can do a follow-up.
Yes, oh yeah.
Is there a copy of that, what do you call it, a brief?
Oh,
That's filed?
sure, I can tell, I'll send it to everybody. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought he did.
I thought I did, but
He
just to
did,
make sure,
You did?
He did.
Okay.
if you can check, if not, Ed, just give me a holler. You know my number.
He did.
Better write it down. Thank you.
And the new service, those aren't on hold. Committee members attending subcommittee or other committee meetings, that was incorporated into the policies and procedures. And so you'll see that, and that was Marty's request. Memorandum on the practices, I will have it to the board by 5/2/24. And on the monument and signage at State Road 82 and Gateway Boulevard. I just need to work with, I'm trying to figure out who I need to work with
We-
to get the survey done and everything necessary.
Were you at the meeting?
No,
No, okay, so there was a question regarding if they were going to include the pillars or not.
Yeah.
They decided, JT reached out to us and they
That
decided,
stretches the
yeah,
deal out
we don't want
much.
that. They just want the monument.
JT was gonna provide an aerial.
Yeah, so they,
Oh,
And then
yeah, they both,
drawing exactly what they were willing to provide. I was gonna send that to you and then work on getting a survey of that specific area and then we can continue through.
but they did have, they had a board meeting on Monday where they voted
So just the monument.
specifically on what they're,
Makes
what they
sense.
want us to take,
The two.
where, and then what they'll,
Oh, very good.
yeah,
Okay.
so that's clear.
And Daniels Parkway Apartments, we're still having ongoing discussions with the Developers Council, and we're gonna have a Teams meeting set up in the next 2 weeks to try and have discussions about alternative routes and as to the feasibility.
We talking irrigation again.
Yep,
Yes,
still. We're working through it. We're
We're trying to work through it.
working cooperatively
Yeah.
together.
and any other questions the board has?
I had one going back, but I don't want to change anything, but I had a question. That deal with Pelican Preserve on the emergency hurricane actions. The hurricane action deal.
That's a paper, that's been, the
One thing they had in there, and that's, I guess it's their call, but it didn't make sense to me at all. If we have a hurricane and it's imminent, why would we not want to open up that emergency gate? Why do they
The back-
specifically?
the
Yeah,
back gate?
yeah. Man, they only have one way out.
Well,
That
staff,
to me-
staff would be housed here and if we did lose, we would go there.
Okay, well, because it made it clear that gate has to stay closed.
I wanna make sure-
I want to make sure.
We do not give keys or any access codes or to anybody in Pelican. That stays
But my thought is on a hurricane coming, we need to have an alternative way for people to get out of the place.
Yeah, I guess the key issue was for the control to maintain compliance with the DRI development order. And that's why staff has
Yeah.
the control.
And we had an emergency clause in that. In the
Yes.
event of an emergency.
But I would suggest that be the staff.
I just saw that. I
Chelsea
thought,
has that
man,
squared
if I
away.
lived there,
Yeah.
especially if I lived in Prado or Pistoia or one of those back end, man, I want a way out of here
Quickly.
quickly.
Yeah, you-
Kind of the reason
Ed,
why
you're-
we
it's
signed it.
Ed,
It's called an emergency road for a reason.
Which is amazing that we took so much convincing of the city staff.
I think Bob is trying to.
yeah, you raise a good point because the practice right now is when the security company leaves because of an impending emergency, all of our gates in the front entrance are removed.
Yeah.
So it
we-
makes kind of sense that we probably ought to open the back gate too, depending on whatever other kind of restrictions we might have. But I would agree with that. That's a good idea.
That could be a timing issue to work it out.
And nothing else? No.
Nothing else for you. Thank you.
Your declaratory judgment.
He did already.
Oh, yeah, and that one,
Need your-
again, well, we may need to, I just want to see what kind of reaction I'm getting a lot of pushback from this one attorney on the second machine.
Okay.
And we also got another invoice, so I'm just going to see how far we get. And I just put that on the next agenda.
Okay. Agenda management. Anybody, any?
Tony, you want to chime in about the President's Council?
Oh, well, when we get to the end.
We're,
Oh, this
well,
week.
we're at agenda management for,
We're
Well,
at the end.
we're ready to adjourn. As opposed to adjourning, what I would suggest is, I've become more conservative in my years of practicing and also seeing some.
earlier with me.
He was at his top. He couldn't be anymore.
Well, I look at it this way, I get smarter. I think I get smarter every year. I learn from other circumstances. That the board continue this meeting, the date and time certain, for the purposes of then adjourning this regular meeting and conducting a workshop.
For the President's Council meeting
President's
next
Council
Thursday.
Workshop.
Now, what the hell?
No, continue this meeting, pardon?
Oh, you just trying to play it safe to
Yeah.
cover that
Yeah.
meeting as a,
Which we will work on in the future, putting hard dates to it and then out and
Okay.
Putting
solicit it.
notices. It'll be continued, yeah, continue to, what's the address?
25th,
To April 25th at, what's it, 4 PM?
4 o'clock, I think.
And the address, Chelsea.
Hampton Park. Hampton Park Clubhouse. I don't have it.
So you're thinking that if we
No,
call it a workshop,
no, just out of an abundance of caution, to continue this meeting, date and time certain, April 25th, 2024 at 4 PM at the Hampton
Park
Park
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse. Now for the purpose of, again, continue this meeting for the workshop session to be conducted with the President's Council.
Did you have a bad dream last night or something?
No,
So I was gonna notify Hampton statewide that if anybody wants to attend.
well,
We do that every,
I know, I'm just.
Georgia
Thank you.
notifies them.
That, yeah.
thank you.
I just,
Okay, so he wants that motion? I need
we,
that motion.
at the end, we definitely
Yeah.
need it. So
Oh.
one more thing, I just want to make mention. So we held on the Raftellus rate study because we were waiting on the admin building price. So if that, we need to get that rate study moved,
Why
finalized.
can't he go with an estimate?
We can.
Why can't he go on ahead and start his work on an estimate?
Who?
Raftellus.
You just thought we have to tell them what number you guys want.
That's all they're waiting for.
I thought you said he was waiting for what the cost of that building
Yeah,
was.
we were waiting, because remember, the engineer's estimate was one thing, and then the budget was one. And if you guys want us to go off for the engineer's estimate, we can plug that in, he can provide the rates to you guys, and we can get the thing scheduled.
Well, I thought that was the whole idea, is when we get to 90% plan, we get an engineer's opinion of cost. We're well beyond 90% plan, so we should have that estimate.
The actual bids were gonna come in.
Oh, well, yeah, because of the timing.
Yeah, but now the timing's off, so now we need to I have to get the rate study stuff done and bring back to you guys.
Yeah, I understand that. I would just tell Stephen or Eric or Rick Rylansky, guys, give me your best number for the building.
Yeah.
Because this doesn't have to include the park
Correct.
stuff for the building, and we tell Raftellus what it is, because he's gonna take 29% of it, 14% of it, and 59% of it, and split it into
Right.
the three utilities.
We'll do that and try to get him back soon, probably.
Because if we give him a bid or an estimate high, we're always safe.
Yeah. All right.
Because we'll find
That probably
something
won't come
else.
back to you until June,
Okay.
just so you know. Anything else for agenda management? That you guys want to prioritize? The 3 items for President's Council, the agenda was posted, packet was posted today, so you should have gotten that. I will not be here tomorrow, but if you need me, you can contact me if you need it.
Comments? I'll start with Doug.
No, I'm good.
Ed,
Good.
Bob,
I just have a question of clarification because I want to make sure I heard that the FPL transition at is Gateway. Have we signed something? Is that moving forward?
Yes, that's, construction will be starting the end of May, 1st of June. They're gonna start
Okay.
boring the lines.
Then offline, Chelsea, I'd like to understand what the cost benefit is for making that change. That we're
Okay.
actually saving
We can
money.
touch-
So
Yeah,
I missed that if that would move forward. That's all I have.
okay.
all right, Carol,
Yeah, 2 things. I guess I missed it. Did we release the bond?
Yes,
yes,
Okay.
yes, for
And
product.
then did we approve the PERT agreement?
No, that got tabled to a future meeting until we can resolve the auditing issue.
Oh, okay.
All agreements with Pelican are predicated upon the audit being resolved.
At the moment. Okay, thank you.
I do have one other thing I just thought of. The motion for a new member of PPAC was approved by
That'll
PPAC
come
at their
at the-
meeting a week ago. We didn't bring it up today.
No, it'll be at the first meeting in May, May 2nd, which is prior to their next PPAC meeting.
Okay, thank you.
all right, the only thing that I have is just a reminder, Chelsea's review is due.
Yep.
Can't hear you.
Tony before May 1st.
All to come to me, I think, right?
Chelsea's
Come to
review,
you.
That was my instruction, was to send them to you.
And if,
Thank you.
so
Do you need anything from me?
the second week of May, I am gonna be in North Carolina, but if you would like to have one-on-ones, I would
week
really
prior?
appreciate that. Just let me know your availability. I can come to you or we can,
Second week of May.
second week of May,
all right,
in between board meetings.
so nothing else, motions adjourned?
No motion,
Oh.
motion to
I
continue.
I did not hear what
Motion
Flavia
to-
said. What's the
motion
next
to continue
meeting in May?
Thursday, April 25th, 2024, 4 PM, Hampton Park Amenity Center, 10201 Gateway Lakes Boulevard.
I didn't hear what Flavia said is it has to be done by May 2nd. You were standing up. I
No.
couldn't
Well,
hear you.
that's
My review,
Chelsea's reviews that Laura sent out to us that she instructed us to fill them out and send them to Tony.
Oh, I haven't got it yet.
May
Okay, sorry.
16th.
Oh, he did.
It's under like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Laura will resend it for you, Bob, and to your personal.
The only one that reads the personal, but okay.
That was the motion was made?
Yes, I need a second.
Second.
All right,
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
God, is he, good Lord.
Tony, your
I think he had a
review.
bad